Hi, I'm Bob from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, as a family-owned company, our goal has been simple: to give our neighbors of the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick out the perfect appliances. We'll take care of everything throughout the sale, delivery, and installation process. And we even have our own in-house service department. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services, including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server co-location, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Order the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is Monday, May 20th, 2024. It is now 6:30 p.m. And I would ask that you please silence your cell phones. Please check to make sure they are on silent, and notify the chair if you are making a video or audio recording of this open session meeting. The placement and operation of the recording equipment will not interfere with the conduct of this meeting. I would ask you all to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we're going to move into recognitions, and I would like to begin by recognizing Select Board member Angela Scott Price. This is her last meeting with us here tonight, and we are all very sad to see her go and very happy that she will be able to spend more time with that lovely little Liliana. So thank you for your service. Enjoy your flowers and enjoy that baby. And we certainly expect to see you back in politics at some point. So you're not off the hook.
Yeah, I figured so. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. It's been an honor and wonderful to serve with you all. I've had a great experience. I've learned quite a bit about the town of Falmouth that I love, quite a bit about myself and the community. It's been a great experience. I'm glad that
We've learned a lot from you, too.
Yes, we have.
I think you served at probably one of the sport's most challenging times, and I think you did really well through it all, especially, coming right in, stepping right into the frying pan. So thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And you certainly have a lens that has been very helpful, I think, for all of the board members to grow in a certain direction and to understand things from a different perspective that has helped us enormously. So thank you for that, OJ.
And I certainly add my words, repeat everything everyone said. It's been a pleasure working with you. As said, you bring a different perspective to some of the discussions, and I certainly benefited from being with you on the board for just a year, but thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
And we're going to miss you very, very much. Okay.
Yeah, no,
We'll go-
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, we will go on to more recognitions. Anyone?
I'd like to recognize a chosen family member of mine who died on May 6th. Beth Reddy Lyles, excuse me. As I said, she was not family to me by blood, but she was chosen family, and we lost her. So I just want to read a little bit of her obituary. Beth was the youngest child of Charles and Peg Reddy. She was raised in Norwalk, Connecticut, but moved to Cape Cod in her early 20s, working in restaurants in Woods Hole. She sang in several rock bands, including the Geotones, and enjoyed the life of a Woods Hole washershore. While raising her children, she took college courses, eventually earning her bachelor's degree from UMass Dartmouth in 2009. She worked at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole for more than 25 years, first as an administrative assistant and later as a graphic designer, and eventually as the Associate Director of Public Information. After leaving MBL, Ms. Lyles worked in the fundraising operation at the radio station WCAI in Woods Hole, and as a designer and project manager for the Decatur House Senior Living family in Sandwich. In addition to her husband and sister, Ms. Lyles leaves a large blended family. Their children, Elizabeth Lyles of East Falmouth, Abby Stone of Charleston, South Carolina, Hannah Lyles Kern of Saco, Maine, and Matthew Lyles of East Falmouth. Her grandchildren, her brother, Brian Reddy, myself, and others who considered her family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott-Price. Any other recognitions from the board? Mr. Brown?
I think it was Police Week last week, so, recognition for our police department. They're doing a great job. I attended the Tippecop on Thursday night at the Shipwreck. It was really fun. They were having a good time carrying the trays around and bringing the food and getting tips and raising money for Special Olympics. And then again on Saturday at the ball field, several officers were there. Dunk-a-cop. And they let the kids get as close as they want and throw the ball, and they took turns getting dunked. Boy, that water was cold. But the police department, I think, has really come a long way recently with a lot of hiring and a lot of, really motivated folks. So a little recognition for the police department today.
Great, thank you. Any other recognitions? From the board? Okay. Announcements from the board.
None other than make sure everyone gets out to vote tomorrow,
Absolutely.
so we can try to replace Ms. Scott-Price.
Good luck.
Okay, any other announcements?
The opening of the Veteran Center is on Thursday morning, 10 o'clock reception, and then in the 10 o'clock, the ribbon cutting, and then the reception at 5, so I'll be there. I'm not sure how many board members can make it, but I'm going to be certainly there to represent us.
We're going to be hearing
And
from
we'll
them.
hear a little bit more
Yeah.
from that group
Right.
further on in the agenda. Any other announcements? Okay, we will move into public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself, and since the matter has not been included on our agenda tonight, the Select Board will not participate in any discussion or debate of your topic. Is there anyone here for public comment? Ms. Logan?
Thank you. Nan Logan, Precinct 1. Good evening, and thank you for providing the opportunity for public comment. If you haven't seen it already, I'd like to call your attention to a report that national CBS and local affiliate WBZ came out with last Friday. I'm proud that the report includes Falmouth and your decision to destroy our surplus guns in lieu of entering them into circulation. It highlights the importance of such decisions. They found out what happened to used police guns that were traded for credit or otherwise entered into circulation across the country between 2006 and 2021. If a town trades in a gun for credit, they may know that the first new owner is legitimate, but have no control over where and how it will eventually be used. First, according to records from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, an explosive known as the ATF, and hundreds of U.S. police agencies, more than 50,000, specifically at least 52,529 police guns turned up at crime scenes during those years. This averages 9 every day. Second, they were used in violent crimes, including domestic violence incidents and the death of children, among those Cameron Brown, from a gun originating in Los Angeles when he lived in Indianapolis. Third, they include guns from at least 800 law enforcement agencies in only 4 of those years, between 2013 and 2017. This includes from law enforcement in 20 Massachusetts towns. Boston? Yes. And also nearby New Bedford and Mashpee. There's an interesting map on the online article that shows the distribution across the country. Fourth, the trend is up. ATF data show that the number of crime guns traced to law enforcement agencies each year more than doubled, from about 2,200 in 2005 to more than 4,500 in 2021. So congratulations for making the right decision this spring.
Your time is up. Your 2 minutes are up.
You'll get an email
Thank you.
with links to that.
Could we have a copy of your notes? Would that be okay as well?
Yes, and I will.
For the record?
send links to those so that you can peruse them because it's very
Awesome.
interesting stuff. It's an amazing bunch of research they did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy that day. I got grand boys.
Anyone else here for public comment? Okay.
Excuse me, Madam, could I just go back
Yes.
to announcement? I just want to make mention of the survey that is available through the Planning Department on the parking management plan that was shown the other day at the Herman Room. So everyone should take a look at it, go on the website and fill out the survey. It's still available, right?
It is,
Michael?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, just go in the planning department,
Thank you.
find it.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into committee interviews, and tonight we are going to interview Ocean Eversley. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can you pull that mic down just so everyone can
Is
hear you
this
at home?
okay?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
perfect.
Okay, great.
Is there anything you would like the board to know about you that isn't on your application?
Well, yes, so thank you for having me here. I lived on Martha's Vineyard for 30 years where I owned a horse ranch, gift store, restaurant, and a personal training business, and I just recently moved here from the vineyard in November. But I did live here once before for about 4 years, and when I was here, I was involved with, running marathons for fundraising and working at the food pantry in Falmouth, trying to give back to Falmouth like I did on Martha's Vineyard, because I was very engaged with community service there. So I'm passionate about the arts. I'm an artist. I'm a retired clinical social worker and businesswoman. And I just can't wait to work with the community, do outreach and try to get more Black, Indigenous, people of color involved in the arts.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
I think the application is pretty complete, and we got the extra information, so that was good, thank you.
I had a question.
Yes.
You are previously a clinical social worker,
Yes.
and you also raise horses, did you say?
Yes.
Did you ever do equine therapy with kids?
No. When I had the horse ranch, I was not a clinical social
Got
worker
it.
at the time.
I was hoping they were happening at the same
Yeah.
time. Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I motion to appoint applicant Ocean Eversley to serve on the Cultural Council to fill a term ending on June 30th, 2027.
I'll second that, Madam Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are a few minutes ahead of the schedule, and what I would like to do with the board's approval is run through the consent agenda. Does anyone have an issue with that?
Good.
Okay, if there is something that you would like to hold on the consent agenda, please notify me as the chair. Licenses, approve application for a special one-day wine and malt liquor license, Shipwrecked Beach Fest, Shipwrecked Heights Hotel parking lot, Sunday, 6/9/24, from 12 to 5 p.m. Approve application for a one-day wine and malt liquor license on the Water LLC, Striper Fest, Marina Park, Saturday, 9/28/24, from 12 to 6 p.m. Licenses, approve the correction of the application filed by Sun Retreats Cape Cod for a seasonal automatic amusement device license, 130 Thomas B. Landers Road in East Falmouth. Administrative orders, release the surety bond for Habitat for Humanity, LIP at Willett Way. Vote to accept a water main easement on Willett Way to allow connection to the town's water service. Could someone please silence their cell phone? Administrative orders. Approve request from Bob Bennett, owner of the properties located on 503 Sippowisset Road and 19 Quistit Harbor Road, to apply to the Conservation Commission relative to vista pruning on the adjacent town-owned property. And D, vote to authorize the Select Board to approve a letter of commitment for the submittal of a Department of Energy grant for the Marina Aquaculture Expansion for a Renewable Energy Project. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, we're going to move into the minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the public session minutes of April 22nd, 2024?
22, right? Was it-
I'm sorry?
Wasn't it 24, 22?
April 22nd.
What did I say?
Excuse me, no, you were right. It was 2024, but I thought when I read them, I thought they were older, but I guess.
There were comments in the packet. I did the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was an
That's right.
excerpt.
That was a little, yes, it was a little confusing. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I didn't see any problem with them, though.
I didn't either. I'd move approval of the minutes of public session, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 22, 2024. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. It's now 6:44. We can ask for the, we have an open hearing, correct? A continued hearing.
That's correct. Continued from the April meeting.
From
1st.
April. Okay, and that is an application for an all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license, an annual entertainment license, and a Sunday entertainment license for 10 Water Street LLC, doing business as Pie in the Sky Coffee and Bakery, 10 Water Street, Woods Hole. It's been continued from April 1st, 2024, and we have the applicant here. Where did he go? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, just getting the
I
the
could have sworn
PowerPoint
I
set
saw
up.
you walk across.
Just 1 second, Madam Chair.
You do have 30 seconds.
Okay. Good evening. My name, for the record, is Anthony Tsakalos, and I'm an attorney at Amen Clower LLP. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, 10 Water Street LLC, doing business as Pie in the Sky. The applicant, which operates a coffee shop-themed restaurant and bakery at 10 Water Street in Woods Hole. With me tonight again is Eric Gura, who's the general manager of Pie. We were previously here before the board in early April regarding a full liquor license and a regular annual and Sunday annual entertainment license application. In light of comments received just before and during the last hearing from members of the general public and some members of this board, the applicant has requested to withdraw the liquor license application without prejudice and has submitted revised annual, regular and Sunday annual entertainment license applications. Pie in the Sky would like to provide entertainment to its patrons on weeknights from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and on weekends from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Entertainment would generally consist of a solo guitarist playing acoustic guitar with light amplification, if any, on each day, except Monday nights. On Monday nights only, Pie would like to reintroduce the open mic night that they've been providing for decades, which may include a full band with instruments and amplification. Pie hopes that starting the entertainment on weekdays after 5 p.m., when most businesses in the area have closed for the day, will be acceptable to area residents and the local business community. On other days, as mentioned, the entertainment would basically consist of a solo guitarist or small ensemble playing either fully acoustic or with only one amplifier. Pie is hoping on doing brunch service on the weekends and would therefore like to provide entertainment to customers starting at 10 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. On behalf of the applicant, I respectfully request that the board allow for the previously applied for liquor license application to be withdrawn without prejudice, and to grant the entertainment licenses as revised. And with that, we're happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Brown?
I'd like to ask a question. It's a little bit outside of your license request, but it has to do with comments we received, via letter. One of them, interestingly, was about loading dock and trucks parking in inappropriate areas. So that was a concern that we had an email today. And I wonder if, is that something we can address just to, anecdotally along with this, or am I out of bounds with that?
Isn't it outside of the scope of the,
Unless it's related to the entertainment license.
I think that there were some concerns when we were requesting a liquor license about delivery trucks being, in the way, whatnot. Now that we've withdrawn that application, I don't know that there's any additional issue with deliveries beyond the normal, ordinary course of business.
Okay, well, maybe that's a separate matter to be discussed at another moment, but just wanted to.
it was raised, and I believe it was raised at our last meeting as well.
It is kind of related because it's a traffic issue. I don't know.
I would like to add something. Traffic is actually a natural component of any kind of license, whether it's entertainment or for alcohol or a common victualler. It is part of the analysis that this board should be doing every time they consider a license.
Thank you.
I have a procedural question when you get a chance, if you're done.
Well, go ahead, yeah, we can go back to that after.
The way this was proposed, a withdrawal without prejudice, and then adding a piece to it, don't you have to take care of one before you can entertain the other?
Do we have to close the first hearing, maybe?
Well, that's the question I'm asking. Is that two separate issues? And then readdress if there's concerns about the second half of the request? Because this way, it closes it up and there's no room. If we move on the request as described, it grants everything without, on the second part of the request. You follow what I'm saying?
Are you asking the?
I'm asking procedurally.
Right, if we close it about them withdrawing the alcohol license?
I'm wondering
you're
if we
asking?
shouldn't, or if it's appropriate to accept the motion to withdraw without prejudice for the liquor license part, and then readdress the other one as a whole.
Sounds right.
That way, as Mr. Brown described, there are other issues that he may want to describe or get feedback on, but if we take the vote the way it was described, it's all done.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to do it the way that you've described it and take it in two parts, dispensing with the motion to withdraw, the withdrawal of the application first. If you want to continue to discuss the second part with the entertainment license and hold the hearing open for that, that's perfectly fine.
Sounds like a good,
So the hearing's open, but we'll take two separate votes.
well, we just make a motion to accept the applicant's
The
request
withdrawal.
to withdraw without prejudice the liquor license.
Mhm.
I would make that motion.
And I would second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
So then, back to the question?
Yes, go ahead.
So the question then is, in the letter that was described today, it was that most businesses use a loading zone, and I don't know exactly where those are, but are you familiar with that?
Very much so.
Okay. And can we get an agreement that those will be used?
Yeah, I mean, we tell all the drivers, these are where the loadings are, this is where you park.
Oh, okay,
Just like we tell our customers, you can park here, you can't park there.
right. To the best of your ability?
Yeah.
Right, I understand. Okay, well, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Zelinski,
No,
did
he's
you have
looking
one?
for.
Mr. Muscali?
When you were here the last time, you talked about some crowd control procedures that you were going to be putting in, roping off and so forth. Will they continue, notwithstanding the withdrawal of the liquor license application? Will you, you're going to be getting a lot of people here, I would assume, if we grant you the hours that you're looking for. Will you be taking any other special efforts to manage the crowd going across the street, and things like that?
The only night we ever really draw a crowd is the Monday night open mic night. And I or one of my managers is usually there, or definitely there if I'm not there myself, to keep an eye on things and keep it under control.
So
but
you don't
without the
anticipate doing a lot of business with
No,
Tuesdays through Friday?
No, we're hoping to get this wonderful opportunity to be able to work with musicians, deal with things like weather issues, but we'll be lucky to fill 10 to 15% of the time that we're requesting. The Monday night thing has a long history, so that's going to be happening. I think it's important for the kids to be able to focus on music. And the rest of the time, if we can get somebody to come in and play, I think it'd be nice. But we're not going to have music from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. All that's just not going to happen. We'll be lucky to get somebody from 1 to 4 on a random Saturday or Sunday. Same thing during the week. If somebody wants to stop by and play for a night, that's about what I think the reality is going to be. but I don't see any massive crowds.
Any other questions or comments regarding the request for the entertainment license?
I look forward to hearing.
I see that, I just note that the hours requested are still 5 PM to 9, even including Monday, so that.
Yeah, that'd be
works.
part of the Monday night.
Madam Chair, if I may, I don't believe we heard in the original testimony that there was going to be full amplification and a full band in that first application, was there?
I think we didn't get that far. I agree with you. I don't remember talking about it, but this
It
is
seems
just,
different to me.
this
than-
is just for the Monday, right?
It's not different, and open mic night's been something that's been going on at Pi for the past 40 years or so,
But there was no language in your last presentation about a live band with live amplification, otherwise somebody on this board would have remembered that.
I believe that there was.
Then I'll check the minutes.
Yeah, I don't think that we're misrepresenting or forgetting to represent anything. Monday nights is going to be strictly a continuation of that ongoing open mic night that's been going on for decades. They're not seeking to deviate from that whatsoever. And that would be the only night that there's any full amplification of live bands.
Obviously, we're gonna keep the volume within reason. It's not gonna turn into a rock show per se.
Yeah.
I think it is important for folks to have something to be able to play and express themselves.
And
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
we have been recently having some issues with outdoor music, and we've been enforcing a policy of having the manager make sure that the sound doesn't carry beyond the property line. It's a difficult thing to really do, and it's something to be aware of, that's what the strict letter of the approval will reflect. Maybe it doesn't have to be 100% perfect if the neighbors are able to work with you, but if it does start to get out of control and if there are complaints, then that's what it falls back to, so it's something to be aware of.
Understood.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
If I may, would the applicant be amenable to conditions that any speakers or amplification systems must be directed to the interior of the property? No amplification of any kind permitted after 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday.
The only exception I would ask would be the Monday night. And then, yeah, absolutely. We want to make this a positive thing. It has been for the last 40 years. And to lose it, I think, would be a terrible loss for the entire community. We don't want to cause any problems. I'm going to be there to take care of that. If there's any issues, I'll address them myself.
My
That is-
final comment would be, I'd
Go
love to
ahead.
hear from the
Okay.
the
That is
community.
one,
ahead.
that is one aspect that we did hear positive comments from, that it's a great place for young people to go and enjoy that venue, so.
Mr. Muscali?
Yeah, I know that the prior license you received for Sunday was from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and you're asking for essentially the same. Nonetheless, starting at 10 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday, or at least a Sunday, seems to be a little bit of an overreach. Is there any way you would consider?
11 or 12 would be fine. Just something to have the option. If somebody said, hey, can I set up, if they set up at 10:45, we just would like to have the flexibility to be able to accommodate things like weather and schedules. And we want it to be, again, a positive thing.
I think starting at 12 would, at
Works for
least
me.
in my mind, would be more appropriate for a weekend when people may be sleeping in.
Sure, yeah, they were thinking about doing like a jazz brunch or something like that on the weekends, but I would say that 12 would be,
That's fine.
that would be fine.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
One more.
Go ahead.
If I know you asked for this for the flexibility because you don't expect to fill all the days. What would be your target? What are you thinking of, 3 days or?
If we're lucky. A lot of them are volunteers. No one's getting necessarily paid. Bringing in paid acts is a whole other story. What's happened in the past that really made me think about it was the Vineyard group, Vineyard Sound, the a cappella group, they come through sometimes, usually on the weekends after they've done a show somewhere, and they've sung in the courtyard sort of spontaneously. And it was really kind of a wonderful thing. And we want to be able to have the ability to say, hey, you guys are here? Sure, you want to sing a set or two? Go ahead. And have everybody be okay with it. So it's those things. It just depends. That's the scheduling flexibility. 2 to 3 nights would be what I would imagine would probably be the reality of the situation.
Okay, thank you.
If we're lucky, weather holding, and we're able to get folks to actually show up and play.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Muscali, did you
Well,
have another
just
comment?
without stating the obvious, I think during your time there, you've been very lucky. So my guess is you may be lucky in this regard as well. So that's, I think, one of our concerns is that you actually will take advantage of all of those times, and we'll need to deal with it as it goes forward. But thank you.
That's
Any
all I have.
other questions, comments from the board? Let's move into public comment on this application. Yes, Ms. Bumpus?
Catherine Bumpus, Woods Hole Community Association. I'd like to thank the board for taking the time to review this very seriously and focus on this and ask very pertinent questions. I'd like to thank the applicant for withdrawing the alcohol license, which was clearly an issue for the community, and for reducing the hours of the entertainment license. I think we are close, very close to a workable solution. If he complies with what he is asking for, I think we'll keep a close eye on things, and things can move forward in a positive manner for the village.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Alan Steinbach. My kids basically grew up Monday nights there. They said, "Did you thank the board?" So that's what I'm here to do. Also to congratulate the applicants on being adaptable and doing what I think is best for Woods Hole, which is not to have more liquor licenses and not to have more access to liquor. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank the board as well for considering this applicant's entertainment license.
Name, if you could
Hi,
introduce
my name is
yourself.
Leo Polk. I'm an employee down at Coffee Obsession and a regular attendee and performer at Open Mic Night. I just wanted to say how important Open Mic Night is to the community, not just Woods Hole, but the larger Falmouth community. It's been something that's been going on for 40 years. My mom attended. She also has thought of it as something critical and important to our community, and it's gotten me back into music. The reason why I continue to play and practice music is because I know I'm going to show up every Monday and perform. So I'm happy you guys are considering it, and I'd like to thank the board for that.
Awesome,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
James Anthony, President and CEO of Martha's Vineyard Bank, the adjoining property owner. I just really have a clarifying question, and that is that entertainment isn't to start until 5 p.m., no sooner than 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday night.
They're nodding their head behind you,
Yes,
sir.
Yes,
that is the
that's-
application.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
it's on the paper.
Thank you. Yep. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Moved.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, any discussion amongst the board? I'm just wondering about no amplification after 8 o'clock.
I wouldn't want to throw a monkey wrench into the Monday night open mic thing. They are coming forward and saying that it will be a little louder on Monday in keeping with what it's been. We've had a lot of positive comments about the Monday night as it's been. I haven't heard anybody complain about the Monday night as it's been, and it sounds like they intend to continue pretty much what they've been doing.
If I may?
Yes, please.
We've talked about being able to monitor those things, approving it, and then monitoring it. And I think if the applicant was amenable to, if we got calls and they could come back and answer to those noise complaints, then it could be adjusted. But it's up to them to prove that they can control that, I think.
Ms. Scott-Price?
Yeah, I think that the applicant has done a great job of listening to the feedback from the board and the community and adjusting and coming up with a good plan, so I'm in support of what they've put forward.
I would move approval as requested, including Mr. Muscali's suggestion to start at noon on the weekends.
Just on Sunday, right? Or
Was that just
Well, I
Sunday?
said weekend.
Weekends. Weekends. Yep.
This is only a summertime thing for the most part anyway, so.
And we
And
talked
the-
about language, I'm sorry, with
No,
the
I was just gonna
speakers,
say,
you turning the speakers in and
Yep.
maintaining the amplification to the days,
Tuesday through.
It's just Monday night.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
other than the single amp for the
So that's going to be in the that's going to be in the decision.
That will be in our decision, yes.
Great.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Who made, did you make the
I
motion?
made a motion to
Brown?
approve with the condition that Mr. Muscally had added.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you all for your time.
Good luck.
Okay, we'll move into our second hearing, application filed by Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC for an alteration of premises to its Farmers Brewery pouring license, 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth. Mr. Zelinski for the notice of the hearing.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC has applied for an alteration of premise to its farmer brewery pouring license to be exercised at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Mass. A hearing on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall on May 20th, 2024 at 6:45 PM. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov. Per order of the Select Board, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin Zelinski, Douglas C. Brown, Anjali Scott Price, and Robert P. Muscally.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski. And we have the applicant.
Yes,
Welcome.
good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Christopher Crane of Dunning, Crane, McNichols, and Garner in Mashpee. On behalf of Bad Martha's, with me tonight is Josh Flanders, also of Bad Martha's. We have filed for an application for an alteration of an existing licensed premises to accommodate outdoor seating. That outdoor seating would be 8 tables and 32 seats. Basically what we're doing is creating a summer seating plan. So the existing license has a total occupancy of 94. We are not asking to increase that occupancy. Basically, when we have the outdoor seating, indoor seating would decrease to maintain the 94 seat occupancy. So, and when it's the winter, those outdoor seats would go back inside or inclement weather. So again, we're not changing the occupancy, which is 94. We're simply wanting to allow for the ability to have this outdoor seating during the summer months to accommodate, basically, I think a lot of people like to be outside during the summer, and this will allow them to do that. So again, we're not changing the occupancy. We're not asking for any hours change or anything of that nature. It's simply to allow for the tables to be set up for 32 patrons to be able to sit outside and be served. So.
Thank you. Questions from the board, Mr. Muscally?
And those would be closer to Route 28, is that where it's proposed to be?
That is correct.
Your beer garden, what's shown on the plan is the beer garden?
That is correct.
Have you had an opportunity to speak to any of the neighbors? Have you been approached by any of the neighbors about it?
We have not. We sent out our abutters. There's only 2 immediate abutters. The outdoor space is already limited. There is limited outdoor space already. I'm not aware, and Josh could speak to this, I don't believe there's ever been any police complaints about any outside areas. It is fenced in too, that area, so there is some blockage from any of potential residentials. But again, on both sides of this property, there's no residents. It's like, I think Mahoney's is on one side, and the vacant commercial. So,
Is that on the Mahoney side or the other side, the beer garden?
These tables would be on the Mahoney side.
Towards
We had
Mahoney.
existing seating under what's a pergola area, a tiled side patio. This is on the same area. Originally, the area where these new tables are was a bocce court, a games and recreation area. So you already had people in the space. Now we just have fixed seating that we're showing there instead.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board, Mr. Brown?
Is there any amplified music out in that area?
No, we moved all of our amplified music over to our fire pit facing into the building to address concerns we had from neighbors about the live music. We had them playing outward as it addresses more customers, but because of concern of a neighbor, we've decided to put them at the fire pit, which is really the only place to kind of play at our building while also playing to our customers.
I see.
And it's also behind the fence we had erected to deal with the sound as well.
Right, and thank you for bringing that up, because we did have, concerns in the past from the neighbors across the street that aren't really technically abutters, but they are impacted.
Right, yeah, I think we also had moved speakers that we had on the building facing the street across the way so that everything's facing in.
Thank you, that might be why we're not hearing from them lately.
Hopefully it continues, but we
Okay.
all know the summer gets loud at times, so we'll do
Right.
our best.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No, those were my only concerns.
Any public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the
Make a
hearing.
motion to close.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the application filed by Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC using the existing administrative process for an alteration of premise to its Farmers Brewery pouring license at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, for the additional outdoor seating until April 1st, 2025.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Great, thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Okay, we have our third public hearing, application for a Sunday entertainment license, Shipwrecked Beach Fest, Shipwrecked Heights Hotel Parking Lot, 263 Grand Ave, Falmouth, Sunday, 6/9/24, from 12 to 5 p.m. Mr. Zelinski for the notice.
Yes, ma'am. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 140, 183 Alpha of the General Laws as amended by Chapter 299 of the Acts of 1926 and amendments thereto, that Shipwrecked LLC located at 263 Grand Ave, Falmouth, Mass. Has applied for a one-day entertainment license for an event to be held in the parking lot of Shipwrecked and the Heights Hotel, 263 Grand Avenue, on Sunday, June 9th, 2024, between noon and 5 p.m. Hearing on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, Monday, May 20th, 2024, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to the Select Board at falmouthma.gov per order of the Select Board. Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin Zelinski, Douglas C. Brown, Angela Scott Price, Robert P. Muscali.
Thank you. You're the applicant?
Yep, how you doing? Rob Lowen, property manager, Shipwrecked, and the Heights Hotel. So we're just looking to, we already have an entertainment license. We already have the outdoor license. We're just looking to do a different event this year, which is kind of, we're looking for it more for the locals that kind of tend to disperse once the summer folk come in. So we're kind of doing, we're looking to do a beach fest from 12 to 5. And we're looking for, it's a band, it's the Baja Brothers, so it's a 5-piece band. They're a little bit of an older band. They've been playing in Falmouth for years. So we were hoping that we can get that application for the parking lot for the event. Typically, our entertainment license is just for the courtyard with smaller duos throughout the season, typically from 12 to 5, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But this event is going to be a little bit larger. We're going to have it in the parking lot because the band is a little bit bigger. So it'll just be a 12 to 5 event on June 9th. It's kind of our kickoff to our 12 days of summer. So we're doing a bunch of promos up until June 20th. So this is our kind of summer kickoff party for the season. So we were just kind of hoping to see if we can get that extended for the day, and then we just go back to our regular entertainment license.
Questions from the board?
Older band, our age, yeah.
I didn't mean that.
Your age.
I meant playing here for a long time. They've been playing in Falmouth for a long time, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are asking for them, so it should be a good event, be a fun event.
Yeah, they're fun.
Questions from the board?
I think it sounds like a really nice idea to do for the community.
I think it's easily managed in that parking lot. I don't think there's any problem with it, so.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay, hearing no other questions from the board. Any questions from the public regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion amongst the board?
Madam Chair, I'd motion to approve the application for a Sunday entertainment license, Shipwrecked Beach Fest, Shipwrecked Heights Hotel Parking Lot, 263 Grand Ave, Falmouth, Sunday, June 9th, 2024, from noon to 5 p.m.
I'll second Ms. Scott Price motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you, have a good night.
Okay, we're going to move into business. Presentation, Great Bay Street Project History and Current Overview. And Mr. Wrencher, I'm going to ask you to introduce this, and I need to step out for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick introduction. Our Director of Public Works, Peter McConerty, is going to give kind of a brief project history dating back to 2012. And then a current overview is going to be presented that shows the actions taken to date along Great Bay Street from Chester to Manhattan Road. Potential options and considerations are also going to be outlined by Mr. McConerty. The Department of Public Works, just to let the board know, is going to be recommending a course of action tonight that involves reasonable care, maintenance, repair work along Great Bay Street that we're projecting to include stormwater drainage control measures, tree maintenance, and the implementation of aquaculture, or the option of implementing an aquaculture program in Great Pond with the aim of mitigating wave action in the pond and against the shore. So Peter, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Peter McConerty, Director of Public Works. Although this project is now being overseen by our engineering division, I've been involved with this project since 2012 and presented to the select board, I'd say 4 times with different alternatives of closing roadways and the such. And I know there's a great deal of passion from the residents in this, on this area, along the bank and along the roadway. But I wanted to go through the history of it and go up to where we are now and the proposals we recently received. So Great Bay Street, it runs along Mara Vista. It runs from Chestnut Street to Minot Road. Its length's 6,830, so it's a little over a mile, about 1.1 miles. The roadway is land court. It was donated to the, deeded to the town in 1954 by Henry Lefebvre. The land court certificate and the encumbrance sheets does not include the documentation providing for the layout of Great Bay Street. When the property was deeded to the town, it was the property from basically the bank to the other side of the property line where the abutters were. This roadway was included with it, but the encumbrance sheet does not have any documentation providing for that. And working with over this since 2012, working with our previous town council and current town council, reviewing the deed and title search on it, the roadway is private. This is obviously this is very hard to read, but it's color-coded between the green, the blue, and the red. The green is basically roads that we closed in 2013. The blue is roads that were closed in 2018, and red is sections of the roadway that cannot be closed due to driveways being on the roadway. If there's a driveway on Great Bay Street, that section of road cannot be closed. Residents need to be able to access their driveway. And also the boat ramp over there is not, that area of the boat ramp for that loop road has not been closed. So in 2013, we came in front of the board. We had approximately 4 sections of the roadway that had coastal erosion and areas of the road that were falling in down towards the bottom of the bank. So at that time, we came to the select board and we looked to start closing sections of the road. So this was the beginning in 2013. We closed 8 sections of the roadway. In 2014, we came back and closed another section of the roadway. In 2018, we came back and closed 7 more sections of the roadway. And to close a section of a roadway, the process was, at that time, was that we sent out emails and we received information and feedback from the police chief and the fire chief on closing this roadways, because the implications are the loop roads, you're not going to be able to loop down through there. So apparatus that needed to get down the roads, they need to drive down straight and they need to back down or back in through driveways. They cannot drive around sections of the roadway because Public Works placed boulders at the end of the roadways for all of these sections, so you cannot get through. These are the sections of the roadways that were not closed. There's 7 sections. As I said, the Harrington Street, the boat ramp, and 6 additional sections of the roadway were not closed due to residences having driveways on Great Bay Street. In 2013, our consultant at the time, who is our consultant now, came up with 2 options. One option was a beach nourishment and a stabilized slope. So the stabilized slope was large stones at the bottom of the bank, and then covering over with beach nourishment and planting the top of the slope.
Pete, can you hold up for 1 second? Folks, you're going to have to either come in, or you can't stand in the doorway. There's seats inside. Thank you. Sorry, Peter.
So that was the beach nourishment and the stabilized slope. The second option was just the stabilized vegetated slope and beach nourishment, no armor, no rocks at the bottom of the eroded slope. So back in 2013, they were looking at 2 feet of nourishment to take it the nourishment above the mean low high water, mean low water, mean high water, and up to the bottom of the slope, and then plant the slope. In order to maintain this, stabilize and maintain the vegetated slope, you have to put an irrigation system in there to be able to water it, and you have to monitor it. And there's a DEP number that goes along with doing this work. There are several properties on Great Bay Street in the northern section that have done this, gone through the town, and they have done, they have gone for grants, and they have nourished sections of this roadway on the northern side, and it's the same thing. They have irrigation systems and a DEP permit that needs to be complied with. So in 2013, our consultant for those 2 options gave us a cost estimate, and in 2013 it was $958,000. In 2014, Public Works did go to town meeting under Article 18. And the article was to do erosion repairs. We put in for $1 million, and also put in $250,000 because at the time, there was a lot of drainage running down the side roads along Mara Vista. And at the same time, there was also, that we had the wastewater project that was ongoing, and they were digging up Mara Vista Ave. So for Public Works, we thought the best way to be able to go in and do this work is do it at once so we wouldn't be disrupting the roadway again. At town meeting, it was voted to approve $250,000 to not approve the $1 million. So what Public Works did with that $250,000 during the wastewater construction is we went out and we did contribution areas all the way down the roadway. This is an in-house plan that was done in our engineering department, and we installed a lot of drainage standalone basins and systems at these roadways. The reason we needed to do this, a lot of these roadways are private roadways, so we did have to go down and make an exception and go down some of these roadways and put drainage in to stop the water from going from Mara Vista down that area of the private road. In 2018, 2019, it's not shown on here, but in 2018, 2019, Public Works, after the wastewater was done, Public Works went in and did it and installed a sidewalk on Mara Vista Ave and with granite curbing. And when we installed that, we also put in aprons along the private roadways to stop some more of the drainage from running down the roadways. So we didn't capture 100% of it, but we have a large portion of it that was captured.
Peter, can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
Sir, can you come in from the doorway? There's a couple of seats up front. We just can't have you blocking the doorway. Thank you. Sorry, Peter.
So recently, we've had multiple meetings out on Great Bay Street. Most of the meetings were between Hiawatha and Providence Street. We had our town engineers out there, we had our MES out there, we had our Conservation Commission out there. We walked the roadways, we walked the shoreline, we walked down the stairs, and we actually walked along the banks to take a look at the banks of the area. The area that is in question tonight is the area between Hiawatha and Providence Street, and it's an area that's showing, but that area right there is just the first signs of the roadway. There are other portions of that roadway that are in, that it's right behind it. The roadway's undermined. So this company, John Ramsey, was with Applied Coastal, now he started his own company, SCS. He went out with our town engineer and they did a feasibility assessment. And under the feasibility assessment, I took some quotes out of it. It said, anticipated that only soft engineering methods likely can be permitted along the shoreline, which would be coir rolls, nourishment, stabilized slope, the planting of the slopes. The town can expect the shore protection measure to cost between $1,000 and $1,500 per lineal foot of shoreline. Several thousand feet of the shoreline likely will require protection over the next 10 to 20 years. Therefore, the cost could be in the range of $4 to $7 million for initial construction of the shore protection along the eroding stretches of shoreline. Being in this working for the town and being in this business for more than 30 years, we go with the higher end, the 7 million. By the time this goes through with the permitting and the assessment and the permitting, to get this into actual construction, you're gonna be more up towards that $7 million cost. The anticipated cost for the in-depth feasibility assessment for the shore protection along Great Bay Street is estimated to cost between $120,000 and $180,000. So this letter, feasibility letter that our consultant gave us was a 2-page, well, actually a 4-page letter, had some photos in it. But an actual full assessment would be range between $120,000 and $180,000, depending on the details of the project. So following a finalized feasibility study, it's estimated that design and permitting costs will range between $200,000 and $400,000, depending on the amount of roadway that needs to be looked at and permitted, and the amount of permitting that's required from the Conservation Commission and all from the Mass DEP. And then in addition, the annual maintenance costs are projected to cost about $350,000 a year. So down the bottom is just a recap: $120,000 to $180,000 for a feasibility assessment, $200,000 to $400,000 for the design and permitting, $4 million to $7 million for the construction costs, and then an annual $300,000 ongoing maintenance. And I can say that $350,000 ongoing maintenance is not something that Public Works has the capacity to do, or we have the bandwidth to do at this time. The amount of work, we have a lot of work coming in other areas of town, so that would need to be subbed out. So the potential options that we could look at is that the town can perform minor repair work. We can do stormwater drainage. We've been doing some. We can do some additional stormwater drainage control, and we can do tree maintenance work. So some of the trees that are on the top of the slope from the beach side or from the lower area side, when you look at that, it's all undermined by several feet, and a lot of these trees have the bases of them, and the tree roots are all exposed. The town implements an aquaculture practices in Great Pond to reduce wave action. During our meetings with MES, Chuck Martinson had talked about the possibility of doing some of these, some of the cultures that he's been doing with the oysters, working on the ponds and the floating ponds. And the reason for that, to see if we can reduce the wave action on the water on Great Pond, and the possibility of being able to reduce that so you won't get much of the erosion. That's something that, if the board determines that we can go this way with the aquaculture practices, then we can work with MES to have that. Third option is the town moves forward with the feasibility assessment, the full feasibility assessment, permitting, construction, and annual maintenance. And the cost is in excess of $5 to $8 million with $350,000 annually. And as I mentioned earlier, allow abutters to perform work along the coastal bank of the town property. And further north, there are some instances where the abutters across the street did go for grants, and they did perform the work. And it's actually flourishing. It's a lot of work. It takes annual irrigation and re-nourishment of the areas, but it does work in those areas. Or any part or combination of the above-mentioned options. And as I mentioned, for Public Works, we can handle the stormwater drainage control. That's something that we have been doing. We can continue. Tree maintenance work, our Parks Department can work with the Conservation Commission. Sometimes they allow us to take trees down. Other times, depends on the circumstance, it's not allowed. But Conservation Commission has to have approvals for all of this work. And then, again, we can work with MES on possible aquaculture practices for the floating oyster bags, or however we can work with MES on this. And at that time, I'd take any questions. I know there's some members of the public here that'd like to speak on this also.
Madam Chair?
Questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, after questions, I had a statement.
Mr. Muscali, go ahead.
Just one question, Peter. The $4 to $7 million anticipated possible cost, is that just if it's soft engineering methods, and if more substantial or hard methods, that number would, are possible if we got the approval, that number would be higher?
Yeah, that price would go up. Once you start talking armament, that price would go higher. And the reason they talk soft solutions is typically that's what the state allows in these areas is soft solutions and not the armor.
And just to be clear, I mean, that cost would be the entire length, or what's needed for the entire length of that roadway?
So the feasibility study that they do, assessment study they would do a more comprehensive for the whole
Where
roadway.
things are needed and.
It wouldn't be the whole roadway, because there's some areas that flatten out and are low areas and have marshes that go out into the pond. But it would be a large portion of the roadway.
Thank you.
Mr. Zelinski?
Peter,
and then
so
Mr.
the aquaculture part of this would take up sort of some of the armament issues? I mean, help with armament?
So, looking at this, I mean, you could have wave action out there, but it's in a pond, so the wave action, I don't believe, it will take care of some of the waves, it'll bring some of the wave action down.
I guess that was my question. That's,
Yeah, that'll bring some of the wave
I
action.
know it's not gonna replace the armament possibilities of, but I was
Right.
just saying if it was gonna help, it serves two purposes.
Right, and I think that's what Chuck Martinson was thinking about, have something go in there to be able to reduce that, put something on the water to be able to reduce that wave action.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Renshaw?
Madam Chair, real quickly, Peter mentioned on this slide, some of the proposed repair work. I wanted to draw the board's attention to a memo from town council that refers to reasonable care standard. I'm going to ask town council to kind of walk the board through that, because I think the reason for this presentation is because, number one, it's been years since select board has heard kind of an update on this area. There are likely going to be other areas similarly impacted by erosion. So I asked town council to do kind of an in-depth look at what standard the town is required to fulfill in terms of the maintenance, and that reasonable care standard is important. So, more?
Thank you. So I hope I can provide some guidance here. This is a thorny issue, and part of the reason why it's so thorny is there are really two issues here as far as the decision that you have to make about what kind of investment you want to put into this. The first is about the land that the town actually owns along the bank outright, and how much, what the scope of the maintenance program is that you want to put into place in terms of just the erosion protection and the coastal resiliency. That is kind of a standalone issue that you'll have to wrestle with. But this reasonable care matter pertains to the road. So there's a roadway along here, and it is, I think, contributing to some of the erosion of Great Pond. And that roadway has been looked at by me and a couple of my predecessors in great detail, because how the road is owned changes what the town's responsibility is as to the maintenance of the road. I have concluded, along with all of my predecessors, that this is a private way, which means that the town as an abutter, along with the abutters on the other side of the street, own the road. And because of that, there's a shared responsibility for maintenance. And there's also a shared responsibility to conduct that maintenance with reasonable due care. So reasonable care really has to go to, it goes to keeping travelers on the road safe from harm. And when this legal issue was discussed the last time, when we went through some of the road closures over the last decade, it was this reasonable duty of care that formed the basis of the reason why the road needed to be closed, because it was determined that it was too dangerous for the parts that were closed. It was too dangerous for vehicular travel. And not only was it dangerous for vehicles to drive on those parts of the road, but it was also causing additional damage that couldn't be cared for. So here, when you're talking about those parts of the erosion that are directly impacting the road, you have to think about how much maintenance, how much investment should the board put into taking care of that reasonable duty of care. What is reasonable when expending municipal funds for something like this. I don't know that there's a particular answer. I don't know that I can tell you yes or no whether there's a particular course of action that's right or wrong. It is a spectrum, and whatever decision that you make about what reasonable care means, I think you have to think about all of the facts and circumstances here, not just the traveler on the road. That's a consideration, an important consideration, but the ongoing costs. The ongoing costs, not just from a monetary standpoint, but the ongoing costs to the bank. And it's a balancing test. It may be, and I think that at some point there is going to have to be a difficult decision about closing the road altogether before it falls into the pond. And I don't know what the answer is about how much work can be done with this, what SCS has presented to us. I think certainly that there are places along the road and along the bank where it's an easy decision, where you can say, yes, but this is a good investment. This is a good investment not just for coastal resiliency, but also to protect people who are using Great Bay. There may be other places where there will be tough decisions about having to close some of the banks altogether in order to save the bank and in order to save the road. But I think it is incumbent upon you to take a look at it's a long stretch of road, and you can probably break it down into pieces, because I'm sure you've all walked along the street and it's different in different places. So the standard of reasonable care is going to be different as you walk up and down the street. Your choices are vast, and your decisions are going to depend on what's actually needed for that particular stretch of road. I don't know if that was helpful, but.
Certainly
It is.
confusing.
Go ahead.
So the road certainly being a private road, I understand your point, but the town owns the beach portion, and that's the portion that's deteriorating so rapidly. And I think we need to do the survey and establish some sort of a budget, and every year tackle what we can do, because it's not gonna get any better. I went down to Iroquois and Providence, where you have those blocks, and the people are now, just walking around the blocks and now walking onto the people's property. And it's actually pretty dangerous, and I hope we can maybe do something. I don't know, maybe we could take several bales of hay waddle and just put them down there, and some filter cloth and some sand, maybe put up some posts and a rope or something, because it's easy to see people are continuing to walk through there, and it's really eroded right out into the path now, so I think we need to start working on doing something down there. And it's a steep bank, so you're never gonna armor it, but I think if we did some maintenance and that soft armoring, I guess you call it.
So I will offer this, though, and I mentioned during the presentation, that's just the first section.
Mhm.
There are other, if you go down on the beach and you walk that beach, basically go down that set of stairs at the end of Hiawatha and walk north.
Mhm.
Look at that.
I know, it's caving underneath.
There's a lot of area over there with the trees, and they're top heavy. So that's one section, and then there's other areas, at the end of Reynolds Street, there's other areas. So once you start, you're gonna be chasing it. So it's just a decision of, what to be done. And we have met with the Conservation Commission out here and walked this several times with them, and everything is
Yes.
permitted. So it's a full filing with the Conservation Commission because of it's right on the coastal.
Mr. Renshaw?
Coastal bank.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, could you come in? We can't have you blocking the doorway. Grab a seat, thank you. So, Madam Chair and Board, Peter, thank you for the presentation. Again, this is is an update because it's been several years. So, as Town Council pointed out, you have several options. So the approach I mentioned is following that reasonable care standard. Peter outlined what that would be. Primarily stormwater, those functions that DPW currently has the capacity to carry out. The tree maintenance, what we see is, if you go out there, there's photos in your packet. You know, a lot of the large, older trees along the bank are being undercut. And the branches and the leaves, we're trying to kind of minimize the sail effect by trimming those up, thinking that may help. Because one of those large trees falls, and it takes a big chunk of that bank with it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of reasonable care standard type maintenance. It's more than minor maintenance, it's reasonable care maintenance. In addition to, and I've become a big fan of aquaculture, in addition to that, exploring that as an opportunity in the pond to kind of, again, break up that wave action. We suspect a lot of it is wind action. It's not so much the waves, but it's the wind action. So, you know, we'd have to evaluate the viability of the aquaculture, what effect that would have, cost benefit. So the choices are, and you can see the recommendation I'm making. As town manager, I'm asking for direction so I can give DPW and the other departments, conservation, some direction. Because it's been so long, I hate to say it this way, but if we had done something in 2014, and if that additional sum of money that we requested had been appropriated, you know, it would have cost south of $1 million. Now we're looking at 4 to 7, you know, to do that, 6,000 linear feet. Anyway, that's an opportunity gone. So now we have to look at kind of what's the best strategy to attack this. If the board decides to direct my office to proceed with developing a capital budget, it would require, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it would require engaging that engineering service or a similar service to conduct that full-blown, in-depth study, right? That's going to give us more accurate project capital cost numbers, and then maybe identify some high risk or areas that would be kind of a prioritize or triage that 6,000 plus linear feet. So those are kind of the choices. My recommendation tonight, and I'm going to be clear, is that the board directs me to proceed with the reasonable care maintenance standard, which is, again, is the stormwater control, those things that DPW has the capability to do now, the tree maintenance, and then exploring the use of aquaculture. If the board decides to pursue, you know, the more costly approach, that's your direction to me, and we're going to implement that. It's going to just involve that $120,000 to $180,000 more in-depth study using the consultant. It's going to give us maybe a little bit more tactical view of what we need to attack first, and then give us some dollar values associated with each of those actions. So those are the choices, and you have my recommendation. I want to point out and remind the board, and I know you know this, we have $525 million, over $500 million in our 10-year capital plan. Mm-hmm. That does not include some high-cost items that we're looking to program in, a police station. I say this because the $4 to $7 million is not a small amount. And like Peter said, I think it's going to be more upwards to the northern number, the $7 million. That's not programmed into that $500 million, so that would have to be done. As Peter mentioned, in addition to the upfront capital cost, then you have $350,000 roughly of annual maintenance cost that would have to be accounted for as well. I just want the board to kind of understand kind of the overall 30,000-foot view of the decision. Mm-hmm. It's a difficult one, but I'm asking you to give me that direction so I can proceed, given the staff direction.
I have another question, if I could.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
So, Ms. McConerty, I know that I looked at the Hiawatha and Providence section today. How many more sections are there that are as in dire need as that one? Do you know offhand?
That section goes pretty much halfway across that path. So that is the section right there that's probably the worst along the whole roadway.
But I mean, what I'm getting at is, are there like 6 more places that are of imminent danger the way that one is? Or what I'm thinking is maybe we could ask Mr. Ramsey to do a more limited scope of the areas that are of primary concern now. Maybe that would help him move a little more quickly, get some permits for those areas rather than trying to do the whole thing, because it really is a public safety concern right now.
It's certainly an immediate need. My question is, if I may?
Please.
The split is center line to the water and center line of the road. That's what the split is for the ownership of the road?
Yeah, it is. So it's been very difficult to determine where actually some of the boundaries are along the road, but in general, for private ways, abutters own to the middle of the road.
Thank you.
So, Madam
Go ahead.
Chair,
Go ahead, Mr.
following along with that, what's the responsibility, what's the financial responsibility of the other abutting owners to the town for the future of the, whatever we may choose to do?
So because of the shared responsibility, it's shared responsibility for everything. If you notice, for private ways, the town doesn't do any large-scale maintenance because we don't own it, and the maintenance is taken care of by the abutters to the private way. They're responsible for making arrangements amongst themselves for things like grading, or sometimes even snow plowing, or general maintenance of the road. It's not different here just because the town is one of the abutters. It's
But
just
none of that has been done, am I correct? As far as,
Back in 2012, the town decided to move forward and start closing sections of that roadway. There was UPS trucks, there was trash trucks that were driving around the loops of those roadways, and it was becoming dangerous. So the town decided that to start closing, and actually a lot of the residents brought that to our attention about the UPS trucks, the FedEx trucks, the trash trucks, and the cement trucks. So we started closing the roadways, and that went from 2012 to 2018. And then during the time, that's when we went to town meeting.
I guess my question was, we haven't, and I'm not faulting us, but we haven't looked to the abutting property owners for contribution for any of the costs involved with the roadway.
We have not.
That was my.
I understand, though, that some of the abutters have taken on their own projects at their own cost.
You can't ask for an abetment on a private way anyway.
No, it's private, it's a
Right.
private arrangement, yeah.
Right. So you can't force them
I
to
didn't
do
suggest
it
we
if
could.
you were inclined to.
We could create a program and offer a partnership, you know, if owners that are, like, a couple of houses that I looked at today, the path is pretty much fallen into the bay. So now I know that the people that walk that path are gonna just start walking on those people's property. So I think that some of them would have an interest in partnering with the town in some of those areas. Maybe that could be helpful to, you know, offset some of the cost, if they have the means.
Are you taking public comment?
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just yet.
Any public comment on this matter? Yes. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Williams. I live directly on Great Bay Street, and I'm born and raised there. Lived my entire life there. I'm in the family home. The two big issues that I see right now, the first issue that I have never in my entire life heard of Great Bay Road as we used to know it, and it used to be known as, now being known as Great Bay Street, is a private way. Herb Lefevre was a neighbor of ours. He died in the 1950s. Herb Lefevre used to socialize with our family. And it was always my understanding and my belief, and we were always told that Herb donated that town and the road to the town. It was never considered a private way, and if I look in the engineering books of, you know, who owns whatever, and it will show the acceptance and Wentworth, and I believe it says that the town of Falmouth owns Great Bay Street. Correct me if I'm wrong. I understand now it's been a big legal issue. So I guess my question would be, number one, if I'm land courted, which my land is land courted, where does my property line end? And, you know, I own halfway into the middle of the road. That's my number one issue. Number two is the erosion, and it's mostly stormwater runoff on those areas. And Mr. McConerty, you did a great job, and you've always been our hero. But some of the areas, I mean, at the end of Reynolds Street, if you walk that beach, like Peter said, it's terrible. So I would admonish you, as a resident, you know, take a look at the whole thing. This is something that has been popping around for many years now, and we missed our opportunity in 2014, and you can't look back, and you need to look ahead. I love the environment. I love Chuck's idea of the floating aquaculture. We've talked about it at length. And that's more for the wind action when it's coming out of the northeast, because it does hit that particular area between Hiawatha and Providence. But for me, as a landowner directly on Great Bay Street, I am absolutely baffled over this legal issue as to who owns that road.
Thank you. Any other comment? Yes.
Laura Moynihan, speaking as a resident, just a question really, if there's been any consideration to doing a public taking of the other half of the street and then assessing a betterment, or working with the abutters, typical to a private road in a subdivision where a homeowners association comes forward and asks the town to take the road, and there's essentially a deal worked out in terms of what the improvements are going to be and what the betterment assessment might be, because it seems like it is a very significant expense for one particular roadway that might be difficult for the entire town to absorb. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we know if there, can we answer that question?
I don't know if it's ever been discussed, and town council can give, the legal perspective on that. Peter, do you know if that taking has ever been discussed dating back to 2012, 13?
Yeah, no, we never looked at taking it as a roadway. Typically, when the town comes in and takes a roadway, we bring it up to town standards. That's going to open up, and we usually don't leave it gravel. It's asphalted, and we put drainage all the way up. It's going to become a roadway. It's going to become an actual roadway that people, be a public roadway that people will access and drive down that road. So that's just something that needs to be considered too.
I don't think that's feasible.
Go ahead.
This may be an unpopular question, but if the town was to take the road, and is it 21 feet from the center line back to the abutting properties?
Typical roadways are 40 feet.
So 20 feet from the
yeah,
center line back? You
typical,
take the road, you abandon the road and use that to create that slope with, and you give them 20 feet of protection along the whole road, but they just can't, the road becomes non-existent on that now. You can't use it now anyway.
You're suggesting that the town abandon the road?
Well, you can't abandon something that you don't own. You know what I'm saying? So if the town was to take it.
And then abandon.
And then abandon the road and then use that material to fortify that whole. You can't improve something that you don't own.
So you're saying start the slope
Well, I
further
mean, it
back,
gives
yes?
you 20 more feet of bank to work off, to start your bank off of, to be able to, the town could work off of it, but I don't know what the appetite for that would be.
Certainly, it's not going to be rebuilt as a road. There's no way to bring the road back. I think Peter was saying that if you're going to take a road, you have to pave it and bring it up to standard.
Well, I mean, just by breakout force, if Peter can correct me, I mean, if you're gonna put drainage in that road, there's no place to put offside drainage without going out into the water.
Yeah, I don't think it's
I don't know
even,
how you do it.
I don't think you can do any of that.
And you all know this, but just to say it out loud, the current process would involve, if there were a taking, before the town accepted that roadway, the improvements, bringing it up to town standards would be made, and that would be the responsibility, as I understand it, of the private property owners.
Or at least the design of it, right?
I don't know, the whole thing.
So I think that would be the purpose of the betterment, that would, you assess the costs of whatever it took to make it a public road.
You're talking upwards of more than $7 million. If we're talking $7 million just to catch this, to put roads and structures and everything, you're gonna double that, Peter, right?
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I just don't think it's even practical to even go that.
Mr. McConerty, did you want to answer his
Sorry.
question, then Mr. Brown?
Yeah, so typically, when the town does work on our public roads, we don't look for soft solutions because it's a lot of work for us. We do not have the bandwidth and the resources to be able to take care of that. So we look to do hard armor, and I know that it's got consequences, and it starves the systems to the east, but that's what we look to do. We have areas, we're losing Surf Drive, we're losing Grand Ave, we're losing Minot, and all these areas are gonna all need to have, to us, for the town to maintain it, a soft solution is going to be difficult. We're going to be looking to do an armament. On Great Bay, soft solution is going to be something that we as Public Works would have to contract out to have the maintenance done, the annual maintenance.
Ms. Scott Price?
I think our DPW director has given us a reasonable care schedule that we could follow, probably should follow. And I'm sure that if things change, there's something else that could be done, he'll bring it back to the town manager's office and bring it back to us. So I would motion to direct the town manager, upon recommendation from the Department of Public Works, to begin planning for reasonable care maintenance repair work along Great Bay Street as determined by the Director of Public Works, such as stormwater drainage control and tree maintenance work, and to further research the implementation of aquaculture in Great Pond to reduce erosion due to wave action.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm not opposed to the motion, and I agree that that's a good stance, but there are some areas that are significant public safety hazards, which I don't think fall under this. And I think we're gonna need to take some additional action. For instance, in between Hiawatha and Providence, where I looked today, it's just a dangerous situation. And I don't think we can just let it go. I think we need to at least have some, Mr. Ramsey or somebody get out there and figure out a temporary solution for the summer. I hope that's possible, that Conservation could work with us to do that for safety.
Mr. Scally?
I, for one, would want us to consider pursuing that feasibility study that has been mentioned before. I think, I think it's warranted under the circumstances, and I really think it's something that we should seriously consider doing.
Go ahead, Mr.
Maybe
Brown.
we should consider a limited scope feasibility to expedite the project more quickly and have Mr. Ramsey identify the most pressing issues and come up with some fast solutions.
I think if we're gonna do a feasibility study, it needs to be the whole thing. I'm not sure that we can section it, because I think parts of it are gonna depend on other parts.
Well, I agree with you, ultimately, that's the right way to go, but like I said, if you go out there and look at it today, you'll see the urgency of something needs to be done there.
I
I
walked out
was
there
there
a couple
today
weeks
too.
ago.
I mean,
did.
people are walking all over it, and if it's dark at night or something like that, you know, something very bad could possibly happen. So I agree with Doug. I think some immediate remedy is necessary, but I also think we should be looking at, you know, engaging the feasibility study to get a better handle on really what we need to do or could do.
Go ahead.
So I'd ask that if that's the direction of the board, that we consider that even a scaled-down version, a limited version of that scope of work for the consultant, that be a November town meeting. Otherwise, we're pulling money out of our road maintenance and road improvement budget.
Mm-hmm.
Peter's already got, you know, the road superintendent already has a scheduled road improvement plan. What I'm asking is for the board to allow us to prepare an article for November town meeting to address that. Scale it back, have the consultant give us a feasibility study for a very limited portion, focusing on the very worst areas, the most unsafe areas. But that's a November town meeting. So when we talk about like immediate, I just want the board to be comfortable. My ask is that if we go that direction, that it'd be a November town meeting article request for the funds. And in the meantime, allow us to do that reasonable care maintenance, to do what we can.
I've no problem with that, but I question the scaling back, to be honest with you, because I'd like to see, myself, I'd like to see a full-blown assessment from my perspective. Or at least entertain the possibility of a full-scale assessment. If someone wants to come back with a reasonable scaled-down version, I think it can be considered, but I want to leave open the possibility of engaging for a full assessment.
I agree that the full assessment is really the right thing to do. I'm just trying to think of creative ways to expedite some repairs.
Okay, we do have a motion. Are we amending the motion? And was there a
I'll
second?
withdraw my second, because
Wait a minute, sir.
my-
I'll acknowledge you in just a minute.
May I give my opinion?
Yes.
Again, this may not be a very popular take on this, but I'm concerned that this is very precedent-setting in a coastal community when we are talking about sharing a private road with public. What complicates this is that it's on the water's edge. But what it won't do is it will create language that's precedent-setting for any private road that abuts our property?
I would say that it's no longer really a road. It's really
Well-
just a path, and it's a beach that it's our town.
So it's not a
beach.
road?
I don't see it as a road.
That's what I'm saying. How do you define it? Once you create a precedent, how do you define it for the next particular set of circumstances?
I'm not really talking about a road. I'm talking about managing the coast, to keep it safe.
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
town.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll go back to Mr. McConerty, and then I do have someone that would like to speak. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to confuse the issues any, but one option is basically the road we closed 3/4 of the roadway off. It's all been growing in from both sides, so vehicles wouldn't be able, even if we did, they wouldn't be able to travel down that road anyways. I don't even know if it's possible, with the possibility, if it is, to abandon that road and then still continue with the assessment. So the road's basically abandon the road and then can still continue with the assessment. And the possibility of doing the improvements on the bank. So then you wouldn't be dealing with the roadway, you'd just be dealing with improvements on the bank.
What would happen to those areas of the roadway that are being used by FedEx and Amazon and so forth?
Those portions of the roadway would stay, they have to stay open.
That's right.
But it's minimal. It's minimal sections.
Thank you, Mr. McConerty. Sir?
Hello, I'm Frank Laquadara. My family has owned a property on Mara Vista Avenue since 1962, and I've had the pleasure of growing up on Great Pond and the beaches and enjoying the water and the boating and the aquaculture there. I thank the board members who have visited the site. I hope that all of you have a chance to see what's going on there. The bank is in crisis mode. And I can only attribute that to not so much the wave action, but the east and northeast wind that blows against that bank has got to the point now where it's just every gust of wind, if you stand down there, you can see the sand just falling away from the bank. And it's got to the point where, as it's already been recognized, that there are very large trees whose root structure is exposed. Those trees are going to fall into the beach of Great Pond. In the past, when trees have fallen onto the beach, the town has just left them there. And the excuse that we got for why they weren't removed was that they weren't in the water, so they're not affecting the shellfish. So the bank in its crisis mode, I don't think the issue is so much the road itself, it's the bank has to be reinforced. I really have to thank my neighbors on Great Pond Street because there's so much traffic, particularly in the past few years when social media has been advertising that it's a wonderful place to walk, and it is. They advertise that you can park at the landing, which makes it tough on the boat owners that want to launch a boat. But the issue is trying to get some safety along that bank. If you go to the end of Maple Street, someone who's not aware, who may have children, if you fall off that bank, it's like falling off a second-story roof. I mean, it's a significant fall. There's no way anybody's going to not get hurt by falling off that cliff. And it's becoming more of a cliff each winter. I feel I'm on Mara Vista Avenue, so it's really not my issue, but the people who are on Great Bates Street are concerned about their property values. We had one neighbor who was so concerned that she put her house up for sale. And as a result of the extreme erosion, I understand that that sale may not go through. So it's very concerning. We have to have some kind of a plan It seems since 2014, when we addressed this issue before, that nothing significantly was done to the bank. With all due respect to the Conservation Commission, soft mitigation does not work. I've seen it at the end of Toledo Street, where it was privately financed, and they put in a nice stairway, and they put in the mitigation that consisted of a mesh with coconut shells and covering it with sand. And then I witnessed every season that the sand would be gone. And where did it go? It went up the beach, and we have whole new sandbars along Great Pond Peninsula where the points are that we never had before. So, like I say, the dump trucks line up with sand every spring, and they dump more sand onto the soft mitigated bank, and it just goes away. At the end of Boston Street, where the private homeowners contributed to reinforcing the bank, it's the same situation. The sand just goes away. There's not enough time for seagrass or any vegetation, in spite of them investing in an irrigation system, to work. So there's got to be, in the past there's been, after hurricanes, when they reduced the width of Great Bay Street to just a path, they did it with heavy stone, and that has worked so that the bank didn't further erode. There's got to be some kind of, and I agree with Select Member Brown, that there has to be some kind of an immediate response to prevent injury from not only the people who live here, but primarily from the tourists that come. And my own opinion, after growing up there and spending so many seasons enjoying Great Pond, is that it's not wave action. And aquaculture may be something that's great for Little Pond and for Bourne's Pond, but it's not the wave action that's doing this damage, it's the wind.
We have someone behind you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name's Dolores Francis, and I live on 195 Great Bay Street between Hiawatha and Providence. Mr. Brown, I thank you for taking a look at what you've seen here and at our home. My biggest complaint is I'm watching the children every summer and chasing them away from the embankment. That's not fair to me. I'm not the babysitter. I'm happy to save children, but this has been going on for years. So something needs to be done in terms of protecting the children before the summer comes, because otherwise there's going to be tragedy, very soon. And I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
Go ahead.
Oh. So that's my main complaint, and I don't know if most of you have heard of Roger Cook, okay? And he was a dear friend, and he had said to me years ago, the only thing that will save where we live, because it's too low, would be, rocks and boulders, like a wall. But the conservationists don't agree with that. So, but we're too low compared to what you described on the other street that was done. They're very high, and our road goes this way. And to put vegetation would be a waste of money, in my opinion. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, sir. And I'm going to move you along just a little bit. We are way behind, but I have you, and then you, sir, and then I have someone else. Go ahead.
Paul Henriksen. I've taken courses at the community college on environmental issues such as this, and certificate in coastal zone management. And any impoundment you put in, any hard surface that you put in, is going to force the waves further down, and you're going to create more problems further down the bay. I know the soft is hard to do, but the soft way is Mother Nature's way. Look at the swamps. Look at the marshes. That's what's protecting our shorelines. We think we know better by putting in riprap and impoundments all along the shore, and all we're doing is destroying. If you see every one of those places, people lose their beach.
Thank you, sir. Yes,
Can I ask a clarifying question?
go ahead.
In the initial, the recommended motion, my understanding was there would be some immediate action, correct? On those,
Yes, correct, but that immediate action would be the reasonable care
Right,
maintenance, the
right.
stormwater. Someone made a comment that the stormwater runoff is creating a lot of the issues that we're seeing with the deep cuts. So that would, the ongoing maintenance efforts at DPW would be the immediate actions being taken.
I just wanted to clarify, because it's been said multiple times that immediate action needs to be taken, and I wanted to clarify that in the recommendation, there is immediate action to be taken.
Exactly.
Yes.
Could that include safety measures, like, you know?
I don't know what those would be, to just opening it off, we do that.
Fencing and whatnot.
The resolution should be between you and Mr. McConerty, correct?
That's what the ask was.
So the ask was to direct me to proceed with the reasonable
Yes.
care maintenance.
So
The other
then
option, and I was very
would make
clear,
those
would be
decisions.
spend $4 to $7 million, which may not last. We heard comments about, the resiliency of the soft
Right.
solutions.
I think
So
we're just looking for clarification, if it does include like safety, like filling some of those holes, maybe net fencing or something like that. I know you mentioned the
we can definitely
stormwater.
look at that. They've cordoned them off. They've tried to prevent access to the very worst sections. We can certainly look at continuing that in the interest of public safety.
Right, okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you, members of the board, Madam Chairman. My name is Robert O'Brien, Precinct 3. I also live on Great Bay Street. My background is I have a bachelor's degree in soil science, master's degree. I went to, I'm the past president of the Mass Highway Association. I was a public works director for 21 years. So I have some knowledge on this, and my request is first to thank the response of the town. People have been out there, selectmen have been out there, the town administrator's been out there, Peter's been out there. So we really appreciate you looking at this. It's very important. So we did some research. Actually, my wife, who's the brains, she did the research. 1947, there was a vote to take that road and the landing from the LaFays. So if that could be looked into, that could be a possibility. Also, the fee discussion on the roadway, that is correct. You know, when on a private way, each house owns halfway to the road. But this is a unique situation where the town owns half the road by the fee. But in the location we're discussing here, I would say if you could declare some type of an emergency that this is, it's hazardous to the public. It's simply, as Selectman Brown stated, it's dangerous. So if you could do this, look at the 1947 town meeting and the taking. If you could do some declare an emergency and do minimal repairs just to take the onus off the town and anyone else for liability, because now everyone knows. So once you know, you're liable. The location where this has fallen in would be all town property, because the feet of the road, half of the road's in the ocean. So the only part that's left that you can walk on is the private, if it is private, the private road. So there were a lot of great recommendations tonight by Peter. I do like the shellfish idea. I think going forward, if we could do this on the long term, look at the study. Do the study, okay? Do the study and figure out what can be done, if anything. And compared to the $7 million, that's fairly short money. That's not a lot of money for this type of study. So those would be my requests. Speaking for myself, I'd like to introduce my wife, Carol. If I could, Madam Chairman.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carol O'Brien. I live in Bourne Street in the corner of Great Bay Street. And I again want to say thank you. I did send on some information earlier today by email. And I wanted to just raise two more issues. One is that we never have enough resources for everything that we need. That's a given in life. But public safety has to be the number one, I think, criterion to how do we share this and where do we, and I appreciate your concerns. Once you see this, if you haven't seen it, you will know why we think it's so urgent. There's no other word. This is urgent. The other thing is the issue around equity. We know that Manant, Surf Drive, Chappaquoit Road has been under fix-ups for a long time over and over as Manant. So there's never enough money, but we need to be sure that all parts of town are served equally, and that's something I just wanted to raise. And then the possible glimmer of hope is, I'm sure you're all aware of, that there's a coastal zone management grants, and there's been several years of rounds of that, and my understanding is there is a $2 million limit per grant, but that's nothing to sneeze at, $2 million. And it's specifically for this, around erosion and coastal issues, and our town is an eligible grantee for that. So I would encourage us to all, and my background is, I was a major grant writer in previous life, and I'd be always happy to volunteer for any service on this. Thank you for addressing this. This is terrifying, and I agree with previous people. I think we're really going to have a serious injury, and I encourage you to look. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more comment. Sir, did you want to speak?
Sure. Thank you. Sorry for my appearance. I just came out of the field from Martha's Vineyard. I missed the first half of Peter's presentation. I did find out that our very capable...
Sir, your name, can you introduce
I'm sorry,
yourself?
Mark DiBiase.
Thank you.
430 Davisville Road, East Falmouth. A full-time resident since 1987. I've seen the changes, as you all know. Peter mentioned Minot, Shore, elsewhere. So I did miss the first half of Peter's presentation, so I apologize if I asked him a question if Jeremiah, our capable tree warden, had been out to see the bank, and of course he has, and I'm glad to hear that, because something has to be done. The shellfish thing's a good idea. I'm not against that. I live on Bourne's Pond. I've seen that deteriorate since I bought there in 1997. A lot of changes here in Falmouth over the last 40 years. I've been an arborist for Bartlett Tree Experts for over 31 years and over 40 years in the field, so I know the dangers that are out there. And you're right, Scott. If we have a hurricane or a northeaster, major, and I think everyone can agree in this room that we're way overdue for a big hurricane. We get a hurricane out of the south, like Frank said, it's not the water, the waves, it's the wind, okay? We get a major, major hurricane, a 2 or a 3. Bob was nothing. We see the storms down south, those are major hurricanes, okay? You're looking at some real trouble if we get a 2, 3, 4, 5, big time. And, I'm not trying to bang the gavel here, but we got to look at reality. Something has to be done for these people. I don't even live over there. Why should I care? I care about the town of Falmouth. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the board.
So where are we?
Where are we? Go ahead. Mr. Price.
I like the motion that was already made, and I would think we should move that and then move to another discussion about the study, because I think the study probably should be a separate vote.
That's the way I would proceed.
So I have a motion. Did I have a second on that motion? You withdrew your second, am I correct? So,
I'll make the second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous on that one. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
I would move that we move forward with the study as proposed by SMS, I guess is it SMS Solutions?
Can we clarify who and how we're gonna pay for that study?
Right.
I think it's going to be in
Well, it's
November.
gonna go town meeting, yeah.
Yes.
It would have to be, unless,
Yes.
that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And whether or not it needs to be the full study as proposed, or if you develop a conversation with the engineer and determine that some limited scope is reasonable, and I'll leave that to you.
I think that's fair.
Addressing the
planning.
areas that pose the greatest public safety risk.
Yeah, if the engineer thinks that that's a reasonable approach, but he might just say that it's not really the way to go.
So you do have some discretion on the scope. Am I correct, Mr. Brown? Do you
Yes,
agree
ma'am.
with that?
That is correct.
Okay, so do you want to make that motion?
I make a motion that we move forward with the feasibility study of, where's the, I don't think there is a written motion for this
There
one, so
isn't.
I'll just say that, give the town manager discretion to move forward with the outline of a feasibility study and prepare for town meeting in November.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into business number 2. Report from the Water Quality Management Committee. And I'm going to start keeping people to the time. We are way over.
I might get some more water.
Go for it. Welcome, Mr. Rafferty.
Good evening. Pleasure to be here. I do forget how to use the mouse.
Okay. Okay, you're eating away at your time.
All right, I move to accept the report.
Good evening, I'm Steve Rafferty, Precinct 2, and I'm the Chair of the Water Quality Management Committee. And we are tasked with evaluating the coastal estuaries and ways to reduce nitrogen through conventional and both non-conventional means. We have a very active board. We meet every 2 weeks generally on Wednesdays at 4:30 in this room. One of the big items over the last year was the CMR 21 provisions establishing nitrogen-sensitive zones and the need to start developing watershed plans, all 14 in town, and we came before you with a presentation. I think it was done by Amy, and we have filed for our notices of intents, and they've been accepted, and then the next steps are what will those plans look like, and we've been working with our consultant and doing presentations. Doug, I know, has attended our meetings regularly, and we've looked at what it looks like, what it might look like in an estuary where there's a combination of sewers and areas that won't ever be sewered, and then some of the estuaries where we'll never get sewers in them, and what's that look like? That's ongoing. The other one is we support the shellfish aquaculture, Chuck Martinson's work, and we have a liaison from our committee that works closely with them. And we continue to look at that as a nitrogen reduction method. I like to refer to it as the necktie. You have to get dressed to go out. When you put the necktie on, you look better. So the aquaculture helps everything to look a little better. We've also taken a hard look over the years at permeable reactive barriers. We have one over at the top end of the Acapesket Peninsula still, and we've been monitoring it. And we've recently put together a grant application to perhaps do another PRB up on the upper portion of the Coit watershed. I don't know if anybody's heard, but we've been looking at urine diversion. And the Water Quality Management has invested considerable time, and we've tried to do our best job we can of listening to people. There is a memorandum of understanding. I believe it's coming up a little later in this meeting with the Mass Tech Center. And there's continuing ongoing information around that, and we'll see where that all gets to eventually. We have had on our agenda for a number of years nitrogen control through controlling fertilizer. There is a bylaw in town that limits the use of nitrogen within 100 feet of the ponds, estuaries, and wetlands. A couple of other communities have advanced a more structured control on fertilizer. We've heard from landscapers as to their feeling about that. And we're watching closely what Nantucket and Orleans have been doing with some home rule petitions. And there it is. Little Pond Sewer Service Area, although that is all sewered, we have been part of and get regular updates on the water quality. We've been able to measure that we've seen a decrease in nitrogen in the groundwater. We've been able to see some decrease in nitrogen in the estuary, and now we're sort of at the stage of evaluating how quickly that pond can restore itself. One option down the road is to widen the inlet at the bottom, which we did not do initially because it wouldn't have achieved everything we're achieving now. So, Falmouth sewage areas, past, present, and future. There's a lot of discussion that goes on around this. This is a color-coded map showing where the sewers are and where they might be. This is a little bit better image. Little Pond's done. We've got T-Ticket Phase 1 ongoing. T-Ticket Phase 2 has not yet been funded in any way. And then we've got some dense areas up here and then out by the Wacoit area. Great Pond Sewering, we spent quite a bit of time earlier this year working along with the DPW in getting Article 22 before town meeting, including the utilization of beds 14 and 15 until we get around to the full outfall in place. Coming to the outfall, last year we did a lot of work with modeling where the currents are out there, and we looked at both Buzzards Bay and Vineyard Sound. Much better mixing energy in Vineyard Sound, and we settled on parcels off of portions of the Heights, and ultimately this little triangle over here, which is off of Kite Park, that would be a directionally drilled outfall, and we are heavily engaged at this time with both the EPA, who we've met with about the outfall to find out what they would want to know or do. We've engaged multiple state agencies, and we have ongoing conversations with them about what needs to be measured. So over the next couple of years, this year and next year, what we're going to be engaged in a lot is what's called baseline monitoring. What's out there now? Because once the outfall come in, the question is going to be, are we impacting anything? Or if we say we're not going to impact something, is that true? So you have to build a baseline. How much fish is out there? How much eelgrass is out there? And the eelgrass is a big item because we have to get the outfall past the eelgrass and not impact the eelgrass. And we've creatively worked with Hui to have a remote vehicle go under and map it. And we're currently engaged in a discussion with the persons at DEP that care about eelgrass as to whether or not the remote vehicle accurately maps what they see, or whether divers have to go down to confirm that. But I think they're coming around pretty fast to the value of the remote vehicle. Other news to report, on the funding or grant side of it, we did put an application in for some grant money to look at the watersheds in Megansett Harbor, Fiddler's Cove, and Rand's Canal. These are three areas that are, at this time, hovering at the point where there's not a lot of nitrogen problem in those areas. There's a small amount. We're unlikely, if ever, to get sewers into that area. So they're areas where the long-term solution is going to probably be a mix of IAs as well as maybe a little aquaculture. So we're trying to get some grant money to push along the evaluation in that area, because it will serve as a template for how we're going to have to implement IAs in a lot of other areas of town. The committee over the last couple of sessions has kind of wrapped up, I think, a little bit of where we are with urine diversion, which I say has taken up a lot of our time. And we're now initiating a much harder look at what does it mean to have areas, the term is geofencing. Where do the IAs go in? What are the triggers for installing an IAA? How does that happen? And we're looking forward to a presentation from Mass Tech Center on what's being referred to now as septic utility programs, which is, if IAs go in, who monitors, who measures, how do you make sure they're doing their job? And with that, if I've not used up my 15 minutes, I'll take questions. I could have talked faster, but I would have been unintelligible.
No, that was a ton of information. Could I ask you to send your PowerPoint to the board?
Yeah, I will.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have
Ms.
a question.
Price?
Thank you for the presentation. A question about the fertilizer. So I know that you said, and we know notices go out to homeowners within the range of not to use fertilizers. To what extent is there any onus on the businesses that knowingly put fertilizer on those properties?
Great question. So this circles back to where Nantucket and Orleans are running these home rule petitions. There's a very aggressive lobby group that represents agriculture and fertilizers, and they will fight tooth and nail to limit the sale of fertilizer in any community, and they have in the past. So currently, there's no sort of legal mechanism for us to stop people from selling fertilizer in the community, but some of the provisions in the Nantucket bill in particular kind of go to that fact. So like I said, we're closely watching how that will go to find out where we can get more and more ability to limit people from unnecessarily fertilizing. Now, back to the fact we heard from landscapers. They came in and said, you know, we take pride in what we do. We've been trained in how to fertilize. We don't over-fertilize. And so not to say that homeowners can't also be diligent, but, you know, I think there's some potential for public education, maybe an article in the Enterprise one of these days about, you know, be smart, only fertilize for what you need or something like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board or comments?
I'm encouraged that the outfall work is progressing and seems to be on the right track, so.
Yeah, I feel like we're on schedule, very much so.
Excellent.
I could do half an hour presentation on just where we're at with the outfall, but
We just need to know what the USGS survey will tell us, whether or not taking the water and putting it out to sea is going to have an impact on the aquifer, and I guess that's the key for us
Yes.
to move forward.
Yeah, so the town is contracted with the GHD for some of that outfall work. We're at the point where we've got the first couple of permits relative to doing the marine borings that we want to do in the fall, so we can know what type of soils we really have and how easy it's going to be to directionally drill. And, yeah, it is moving along, so.
Encouraging.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to move to the presentation, Joe Q. Coffee Break. We have scheduled you for 10 minutes.
Hi, I'm Carissa April. Oh, no, I don't know how to do that. I have people for that. Thank you, Peter. And then the arrow, I'm guessing. Carissa April and Carol Kenny from Joe Q Veteran Coffee Break. And we're really happy to be here tonight. We've been looking forward to this presentation to catch you up on the status of the Falmouth Community Veterans Center. But then a great story came out in the paper, and Noelle covered it for us. So if you read the front page of the Enterprise this week, that's it. That's the presentation. We have a little more information, but it was nice to also have that coverage. So this is probably just a little more background on the story you read in the paper. So for those of you who haven't heard from us before, just to review, Joe Q Veteran Coffee Break is the nonprofit. We have renovated and we're going to open and manage a veterans center for the town. But the nonprofit, our mission, and I think it's important to kind of review that for everyone, but we want to build an all-inclusive veteran community promoting fellowship where veterans will be comfortable seeking support and informational services, and to develop the services that today's veterans and their families need. Access and referral to VA programs, educational and job advancement opportunities, and initiatives to promote health and wellness. And our core values and kind of the vision that we have for this organization is to be welcoming and inclusive of all people, whatever race, color, sex, gender, identity, disability, religion, marital status, and so on. But that all-inclusive nature is really, really important to our vision. And specific also to veterans, veteran service, whatever branch, whatever type of service, time of service, being open to all, really, to be welcoming and inclusive of all. And to be an umbrella group, so not just our new nonprofit to stand up and do something new necessarily, but really to be collaborative, comprise the organization of veterans, community organizations, members, and really tie to existing services and causes that are already in place in town and making those connections. This is our board. There are 6 of us. 50% have served actively in the military, and then the other half have very close connections to the military in some other way, through a family member, either a parent or an adult child, but everyone that's on the board has a very close connection to the military, either by serving themselves or being a family member of one. And then we have an additional 10 advisory council members, and over 50% of those have also personally served, and the rest have a very close connection to the military. So again, a little history lesson just to review what's happened here and in town meeting. In November of 19 at town meeting, there was a unanimous vote for the town to provide the former building, the former senior center building on Dillingham Avenue, to a veteran group, including Joe Q, who got up and requested that it be leased for $1 a year to serve as a veteran center. That was in November of 19, 2020. Over that year or so, the Joe Q Veteran Coffee Break organization, recognized that we weren't fully aligned with that other partner group, and the select board also recognized that, and rather than following that path, decided to go in the procurement process direction to make that building available as a veteran center. And in 2021, Joe Q Veteran Coffee Break was awarded the lease of the building. And so we are leasing the building for $4,000 a year as an as-is lease. And we did the walkthrough like any prospective homeowner, very excited. It looked great, and we're really excited about that. And then in 2022, we really started rolling up our sleeves and started getting some architectural plans, doing some remedial repairs, and figuring out who the volunteers were that were gonna bring this place kind of into today's modern, comfortable facility space standards. So this is kind of what the building looked like within the first year or so, the old roof, the siding, and here's some more detailed pictures of what we were facing. And it looks a little different a couple of days after you own the place. You kind of walk back through and you go, oh yeah, I didn't really notice that the first time. We had a long way to come. We knew that we wanted to not just clean it up and make it look like the building that it was before, but make it sort of clean with a fresh coat of paint really wasn't going to do the trick. So we were in the throes of the pandemic, so as we all know, things slowed down, communication was tougher, and figuring out how to move forward. Here's just another picture. And I provide these pictures so that when you come and see it on Memorial Day, on Monday, during our open house, you'll say, I don't even recognize, this doesn't look anything like the pictures, because it really doesn't. We've done so much. But I didn't bring any of those pictures for you tonight because you got to come see it for yourself. The pictures just don't do it justice.
Smart move.
Yeah, and just in the last 48 hours, the amount of, the finishing touches and things that we're getting in place just really make a difference. So we can't take pictures of it. But here's the sort of vision for it. Keenan and Kenny, the architect here on Main Street, they helped us. They donated all of their time and services. All 3 principals came to the table, met with us for hours, helped us build this design to renovate the space that's there, using what was there in the as-is condition, and making it something that was really presentable and really respectful of the work that we want to do inside. And it looks pretty much like this. The roof is on it, though. You can't actually look down inside with a drone like this picture implies. Here's a list of the many things that have been done, and this doesn't, of course, include all the little things, but in the last 2 years, all by donation, donated services, volunteer work, and donated materials, with the exception of just a few grants that we got from the state. We have all new restaurant. I could read the list, but there's a lot of things. It includes a brand new roof, all new windows, all new flooring, new walls, new paint.
New bathrooms?
The restrooms, again, not recognizable, brand new restroom facilities. We got a grant from the state of Massachusetts. We came in here and got the check and put solar panels on the roof, and we're generating our own power to heat and light and run the building on an almost carbon neutral way. There's just, you got to come see it. The list is amazing, but seeing it in person really does it. We still have things we want to do, but we're really looking forward to opening to the public on Memorial Day. We have an open house planned, and then moving forward, we will be open during the week. But we still have work that, again, when you come and see, you'll know that there's still some things that we'd like to do to kind of just to kind of finish the project. The entryway is not really done. The kitchen hasn't been renovated at all. There's a lot of potential for the outdoor space to be a nice picnic area, communal area, some landscaping. We need some new commercial furnishings. You can't really just go to Home Goods and fill the place up because it's got to have, the commercial code materials. And we'd like to improve the entrances and exits to the building with new ADA ramps and have a little more interactive reception area. So, who's it for? As I said, this is a vision for a very, very inclusive Veterans Center, and in a lot of ways, we'll know when they come through the door. When you come through the door, you'll know that this Veterans Center is for you, whether you served personally or you have a connection to the military and you feel strongly about being there, whether you come to share that camaraderie about your shared experience or you come as a volunteer. It's an open and inclusive space where we really hope to build that community already, just whether it's the contractors working there or during our enterprise interview even. I mean, the conversations that kind of spontaneously occur in there because of shared experience, a couple of quick questions, and the next thing you know, you're off in a conversation where you're learning something from someone. So we're going to be open for the summer. For now, we're going to be open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 10 to 2. And Tuesday, Thursday, 4 to 8, and we'll be closed on Sunday. We're hoping to grow this fall and over the calendar year. It'll be really based on volunteers. The organization is 100% volunteer run. We don't get any funding from the town. We don't get any funding from any other organization other than the donations that we have received. And our partnerships are sort of donations in kind because people will bring services there to happen under the roof. That may be going on other places. So what will be offered there? We already have the Vet Center of Hyannis that comes once a month. They'll increase their visits, being available for Falmouth area veterans. Right now they have to go to Hyannis to get that service. Same with Mass Hire. They regularly meet in Hyannis, and now they can meet in Falmouth and have been for about a year. We have a Four-Legged Angels, a support dog group connecting veterans to dogs and also training dogs that veterans already have. And Falmouth will be a chapter of Guitars for Vets, which is kind of a nationally known program connecting veterans and playing guitars as part of a healing and support activity. And then we have lots of things coming soon. We have lots and lots of partnerships. We've been talking to a lot of supporting organizations for years about these connections, Farming Falmouth, the service center, certainly the senior center, Wellstrong. We've just got a number of organizations that we're really looking forward to partnering with. And why is this important to Falmouth? I'm not going to read all of the text, but a lot of the things that we have continued to hear over and over. But really, one of the things that really drives us is that we did a survey in 21 into 22, asking area veterans and veterans from afar, what would you be looking for in your community? What kind of support? And over, we heard people say it'd be really nice to have a place under one roof where we could meet, have that camaraderie, have a place to just be and hang out and have a conversation that isn't necessarily centered around a bar, that isn't necessarily, centered around a specific group of veterans, a certain service type or era or branch or type of service. And so we also found that veterans tended to be sort of quiet and humble about their service. Service is service. They didn't serve to go on and ask for something for their service. They did their service. So they were less inclined to kind of raise a hand and say, yes, please, I'd like that. But when we really pulled at it, we found that there was a lot of interest in having a place to do this as a community. And we invite you all to the open house, which is on Monday, Memorial Day, after the town Memorial Day observances. and there's still lunch over at the Elks, but we will be having an open house there at the Veterans Center on Dillingham Avenue after the observances here, so around 11 until 3 o'clock. And I will also take questions, and Carol will answer them.
Any questions from the board?
I don't have any questions.
It's exciting.
Very.
Just
Thank
comment
you
how
very
exciting
much.
it is to have so many contractors willing to go over there and volunteer their services. It's been a huge, huge turnout.
Thanks for mentioning that, because I think that isn't really emphasized here, and I'd like to add that for future outreach opportunities, because, I mean, it's what we got to talk about in the newspaper article for sure, but it really is, it's so overwhelming how many contractors did come, whether they came for an hour and saved us from that one little thing that needed to be done next, or came for days and days in a row, weeks and weeks in a row. You know, the generosity and the spirit of, and the thing I'm getting ready to really talk about, you know, sort of coin is the stone soup story, right? Where if everybody just brought the potatoes, somebody brings the carrots and somebody brings the onions, you have this beautiful stew. And that's exactly what we had happen. We had, you know, a few electricians come in, a few plumbers, a framer. Somebody said, oh, I can do that. Somebody saw on Facebook and asked us if we needed flooring, Mannington Floors sales rep. Are you going to need flooring in there? And donated all the flooring, you know, luxury vinyl tile floor for the whole place. Anyway, lots of details about
And the quality of the workmanship, it's not like, it doesn't look like volunteer work. They're putting their heart into it, so it's good.
Mr. Muscali?
Just a question, is this only open to Falmouth residents and veterans?
So
at this time?
as we figure out how we're going to operate, we're going to figure out what the need is and what the traffic is, and there may come a time when we say, geez, we just can't support, you know, the whole Cape here. But we know that with transportation and just with traffic and travel on Cape Cod, that, you know, residents, people that live nearby are going to tend to be the ones that use it. For now, it's really open to anyone who walks through the door. And it will depend on the service provider. So if someone is doing guitar lessons or the VA is there to talk about something, that might be limited to a certain groups of people. But for now, we're not doing a membership. We are going to start, we're going to have a sign-in sheet. We're going to understand where people are from and why they've come. And as we understand a little bit better, we'll be able to decide what that'll look like.
Am I correct, there's daycare type of place as well, if I remember?
No.
Yes?
No. This is an adult veteran center. Kids are welcome to come with their parents if they are, along that for the visit, but it's not really geared toward children. We want them to feel welcome like they would in a waiting room or in a space where their parents need to be. But probably, and we'll see. If we find that lots and lots of kids are coming with their parents and we say, gee, we really need a kiddie pool out front. That's a bad example because we're not going to put a swimming pool in. But, if we decide we need a playground, but no, there's not really intended that's not part of the vision to have children. Please.
And the other part of that too is that this is open for veterans and their families, so that includes their children. So we will eventually have groups that'll be coming in. They might be doing something for a parent and their particular child, or we're doing, they can go out to the pond and do fishing or whatever. So we will be including the children in programs, but not anything just daycare.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have an update on the Regional Compost Site Initiative. Carrie Parcell of Mass DEP Cape Cod Cooperative Extension. And Carrie, I'm going to keep you to 10 minutes.
Okay, I think I can do that. Although I'm cutting into it with my slideshow. Okay, so thank you so much for having me here. I am Carrie Parcell. I'm with Mass DEP Barnstable County. My director with the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension Department is also here. And then we've had a lot of town support, including this space here. So this is really just a way for me to update you on what we've been doing. So we have a solid waste master plan, the 2020 to 2023 Mass DEP Solid Waste Master Plan. In short, we're looking to reduce waste by 30% by 2030. And then, and that's a typo, by the way, that 2023. And then to reduce waste by 90% by 2050. And then the master plan looks at increasing the quality of our recyclables. It also looks at source reduction through reuse, recycling, and composting. So those are our major focuses through that master plan. And then sort of a history of how did we get here and why are we here. Barnstable County, with the support of the Assembly of Delegates and the Cape Cod Commission, under our former administration, Jack Units, approached me about what are we doing with diminished capacity for our trash. We generate in the Commonwealth 6 million tons of trash, and we don't have the current capacity to manage that now. As you might recognize, as GDPs go up, so does our ability to buy things, and then as we buy things, we throw things out. So we have to look at that. So in 2021, we wrapped up that feasibility study with the Cape Cod Commission. We looked at two parts of that, the cost-benefit analysis of out-of-state disposal, so how do we get it out of here, whether it's rail haul or trucking. And then the second piece is diversion options for reusables, recyclables, and hard-to-recycle materials, things like textiles, mattresses, food wastes, things like that. So the recommendations of the two vendors that helped with our feasibility studies, Geocentech and Tetra Tech, there were two focuses that came out of both studies. One on construction and demolition, which we were not hyper-focused on right at the moment. It is a costly material stream to move. However, there are places for it to go, and it is being recycled. It's about 1.5 of our MSW stream, but it's non-MSW material stream out of that 6 million tons. The other is the focus on organics. Cape Cod, Barnstable County, has a composting desert. We do not have the capacity for large-scale composting of our food waste and or our organics. Any transfer station on the Cape will let you know that their organics pile is getting kind of high, and they've got to do something to manage it, and not all residents want to come and take that material stream, so we can add that to the food waste as part of that recipe to be able to compost those material streams together. So what we've accomplished so far since those feasibility studies, in the summer of 2023, we had the Falmouth SWAC generously start to talk about this again and make sure that we were following up on what we're doing. So we've developed relationships with Joint Base Cape Cod and the general and the adjutants. I've sat at a couple meetings and I presented at the MC3 meeting in February. We've developed relationships and we now have a contact with Mass Development. They will be, they have first right of refusal for the divestitures of the parcels of land that we could potentially site this facility on. There's more opportunities that I presented to the general in that meeting at that time. The town of Falmouth applied for the Mass DEP Technical Assistance Grant, which is 80 hours of my dedicated time that goes straight to this project, despite all of the other things that I have going on. And then Barnstable County took it upon ourselves through the Extension Department and under the guidance of Beth Albert, our county administrator, as well as Commissioner Forrest, to get an $80,000 grant with 11th Hour Racing. They're out of Rhode Island. This is a new project base for them to look at coastal communities and whether or not they have the ability and the access to put a larger scale composting facility. So this is really just bridging the gap for a need that we have here in our area here on Cape Cod. And Joint Base was one of those sites that was recommended, and they're open to that space. So the other two things that are opportunities for the board to think about, I'm not making any requests of anybody tonight. However, there are two grants that are closing June 12th of 2024. One is a waste reduction project for funds up to $100,000 that can look at more, we can look more towards the evaluation of the parcel of land, more technical assistance toward it, looking at chemicals, PFAS, just the size, space, capacity of the parcels of land that might come available to us. And then the other piece is an organics capacity project. And those are grant funds up to $250,000, but the caveat with that is that's more of a shovel-ready grant, because only 15% of that 250,000 would be allowed to continue sort of studying and looking at the parcels of land and understanding what may or may not be available to us, and the reasons why. So that's it.
Wow. A lot of info. Any questions? Go ahead. Hold on, go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Just curious, what is the area of the Joint Base Cape Cod been identified, or are they just willing to find one?
There has not been a parcel of land. We have decided that there's 20-plus acres that are available. So with the divestiture, we assume that it's going to go through mass development with that first right of refusal on that parcel. So if for some reason that becomes available for housing and they choose not to use it for whatever reason, then we can kind of come in and have that assessment on whether or not that parcel of land would actually fit our need.
And the reason I ask, I understand, I think our transfer facility is 18 acres, and they're probably only using about 4 or 5, so I'm just curious if that was being looked at. Okay,
Not the transfer station.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Muscali, did you have a question?
No,
No.
ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, thank you. Mike McGuire, I'm the Director of Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, which is a department of Barnstable County, and I'm Carrie's boss, and I was meeting with Beth Albert, our county administrator, and Mark Forrest, one of our county commissioners, and I told them that I would pass along how grateful we were to the town staff. Certainly Peter and Mary have been incredible. You have a phenomenal staff, very invested in solid waste management. And I know trash is a pretty boring subject, and it's a long night, and you guys have been here a long time. I don't want to extend this meeting much longer. It's a very costly thing to manage. And from my perspective as running an environmental group for the county, if you look at more than a quarter of our solid waste is compostable, we know that's the easiest thing to get out of our trash. And as part of a wonderful team of Upper Cape managers, solid waste managers, I feel like we're in really good hands with this group looking into a better way to manage our solid waste. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the county for the support that we've received from the staff here and all the volunteers on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So,
Thank you.
That's it.
Good to hear.
Any questions or comments?
No, thank you
Good.
for working on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good job.
I guess I'll add that Alan makes trash not so boring. I get excited when Alan talks about trash.
Trash is never boring, trust
He
me.
loves trash.
Saving
Okay,
on money on
we're
trash.
going to move ahead and consider approval of the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund application for Falmouth Housing Trust for 419 Wacoit Way land acquisition. Go ahead. Is this you? Okay. Okay, Attorney Moynihan, we've given you 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I will talk quickly if I can.
Approved.
This up. For the record, I am Laura Moynihan, and I am the Executive Director and Counsel for the Falmouth Housing Trust. The Housing Trust has applied for land acquisition funding of $100,000 from the Affordable Housing Fund for its contribution to purchase of this parcel in Wacoit, 419 Wacoit Highway. The Housing Trust will be acquiring just over an acre, and the Division of Conservation Services will acquire the remaining portion of the 3.8 acre parcel, and it will be preserved as open space. And there is a plan. Sorry, Kim, I don't know how to get out of this.
X all the way to the
Top right.
top right.
Oh, I guess I can look up here, can I? Sorry, it's been a long day, as it has for you, I'm sure. I apologize. So this is the plan, and this lot here is the lot that the Housing Trust will be acquiring. It does have a house on it currently. This is the remaining portion of the land that has frontage on Bourne's Pond that will be owned by the Division of Conservation Services. So we are asking for the funding for the land acquisition. because your funding guidelines do allow for land acquisition costs. We do have extraordinary expenses in the development of this property. We have this curb cut here that we will have to get a state curb cut approval for. So we've estimated $25,000 to $30,000 in our budget for that. The house will need to be demolished, and it does contain lead and asbestos, so we've estimated $50,000 for that. So right off the bat, we're in it to possibly $75,000, $80,000. In addition to the land acquisition, that we don't normally have those kinds of costs. But aside from that, we are a nonprofit. The houses that will be built here will all be deed restricted in perpetuity. So we felt it was appropriate to seek the funding for the land acquisition, since we're not earning any profit off this development. And just as a question that seems to be asked of us, is the 300 committee is actually the buyer of this property. So in your package, you do have an agreement. And the 300 committee was the facilitator of this transaction, and they did a great job bringing the parties together. The 300 committee will be assigning its rights under the PNS to the Housing Trust at the closing. So that will allow us to acquire this lot from the seller. So, and then the state will acquire this lot. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Muscali, we're going to start with you.
When the houses will be owned, is that correct? Or
Correct,
is that-
for sale. We're looking at doing, we don't have a final number yet on the number of homes. We're looking at the infrastructure costs right now. We've reviewed it with the water department. We will have to do an 8-inch water main coming in off the state highway. So that's going to be a significant cost for us. So we are waiting for some numbers on that, but we are looking at doing 2-bedroom units, some 2 bedrooms and some 3 bedrooms. And income ranges 80%, 100%, and 120% area median income for sale.
Mr. Brown?
So, Attorney Moynihan, in the packet, it said that 33% of the units will be deed restricted as affordable. And that was 2 out of the 6. And you said that they're going to be all deed restricted in perpetuity. Would that be all affordable then? Or is it just the 2? And what would the other restriction be? Just a residential deed restriction?
Well, 2 would be at the 80, if we were able to do 6. It doesn't look like at this point that we're there because of the infrastructure costs. But if we were at 6, I think 2 of them were proposed at 80% median income and under, so they would be considered the low or moderate income houses in order to secure the 40B permit. But the intention is that all the units, all of our units that we sell are deed restricted in perpetuity for resale as affordable units at the income level that they were originally sold at.
Okay. I guess some of the paperwork is a little misleading in the packet. It said 33% would be affordable and the other 4 would be market rate.
Well, they're considered market rate by the state.
I see.
That's why, because when you apply
Oh,
for
I
the
see,
40...
because you're going to the 120.
Right. When you apply for the 40B permit, only the 80% and under are considered affordable by the state. We consider all of them affordable because we voluntarily deed restrict them.
Okay.
But for the state's purposes, they're, quote, market rate homes.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Anybody else? Any other comments?
That was my only.
I was just looking at the April 30th, the applicant met with the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund Working Group, which gave a positive recommendation. But there was a caveat in that recommendation.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll speak to that real quickly. So as you notice in your packet, the recommended motion, our housing coordinator has been working with town council to draft language in that grant agreement. That's the last portion of the recommended motion. You can see that we're requesting you authorize town manager to execute a commitment letter and a grant agreement. We're going to have provisions in that grant agreement, working with town council, that protects the town's interest should the project not move to come to fruition. That claws back that.
That was my question, because that was part of the discussion.
We discussed lien versus this, provisions in the grant agreement, and we landed on it's more appropriate to have provisions built into the grant agreement.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
And could I just add, Madam Chair, because I did hear sort of a whisper, we haven't decided the number of units yet for anybody in the public that's interested in that. We are looking at 4 to 6. We'd love to be able to do 6. We may not be able to do 6, but we also look at bedroom count when we're doing these developments. So if we're doing 2-bedroom units, we're looking at less bedrooms versus all 3-bedroom units. So there is sort of a formula to it, so to speak. So I just would sort of, if anybody's looking at the public materials and looking at the unit count, there's more to come because we have not finalized our
You
plans.
haven't finalized that
Yeah.
piece, sure.
Okay.
Mr. Patrick?
Good evening, board members. My name is Matthew Patrick. I'm from Precinct 7, very near this development. I'm also a member of Citizens for the Protection of Wacoit Bay, and we are very supportive of the affordable housing. We are also concerned, as you probably know, with protecting Bourne's Pond, our Wacoit version of Bourne's Pond. It's a freshwater pond, and that was a pond that you saw literally within 100 feet of this development. Not 100 feet, maybe a few hundred feet of this development. 500? Okay, 500 feet. So we're interested in seeing some kind of innovative septic system installed here, whether that be urine diversion or some new system that will take out phosphorus as well as nitrogen, because phosphorus is what impacts freshwater ponds. Right now, as far as I know, only urine diversion does that. And I just want to bring that to your attention. CPWB had a lot to do with bringing this project together, contacting the 300 committee, getting them together with Falmouth Housing Trust and the state to buy all that land. So looking forward, if our urine diversion project ever takes off, we'd hope that we could get these units included in that. And CPWB is even considering funding the difference. If it costs more to put in urine diversion, we will fund the difference from a normal Title V septic system. So that's all I wanted to say. Bring it to your attention and make sure it doesn't get lost in the proceedings.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Henriksen, and I'm a semi-abutter right across the street from there. I've lived in Wacoit my whole life. As a matter of fact, I grew up on that pond that he's talking about, and I would hate to see it get destroyed by, it's bad enough with the amount that's going in it now. Personally, I want to know, in the paper it said people who qualify will be from $105,000 to $150,000 a year. That doesn't seem much like someone who lives in this town normally that doesn't own their own business. That's going to take 2 people in the family to be able to work 2 jobs, possibly 3 jobs, in order to buy one of those houses. I want people from this town, to live in those houses. I don't want people from East Oshkosh coming down here and being able to afford those houses. Also, I'm told for the last 18 years, I can't get the sidewalks plowed down in Wacoit. We don't have the men to do it. Our DPW workers can't afford to live in this town. Maybe we should think about DPW workers or town workers being able to buy those homes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just one quick.
Quickly.
I just wanted to mention that Bourne's Pond, for the first time, was affected by cyanobacteria last summer. So that's an indication of what's happening in the area.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that the board acting as trustees of the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund grant $100,000 to Falmouth Housing Trust for the acquisition of land located at 419 Wacoit Highway, Lot 1, to construct 4 to 6 homes for homeownership that will be deed restricted at area median incomes varying from 80 to 120%, and authorize the town manager to execute a commitment letter and grant agreeing setting forth the terms of the financial award to the Falmouth Housing Trust.
Second it.
Folks, can we just, go ahead. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Yeah, I seconded it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I couldn't hear the terms of the grant. Do you mind just telling me what the last part of it was?
Sure.
We're talking. Just, is it terms and conditions
Set
as set
forth.
forth by the town manager?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
pretty sure it's what it said, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Just want to thank Angie too for all your work for the select board on behalf of housing and.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay, we're going to move on. Consider amendment to memorandum of understanding with Eversource regarding installation of electric cable under the Shining Sea Bikeway.
Madam Chair, I'll do this.
Please.
We're halfway home.
Yes.
Eversource is requesting simply a start date change. In your packets, we currently have an agreement that the start date for construction is November 1st. Eversource has reached out and requested that that be changed to October 15th. So we're backing it up by a couple of weeks. Peter McConerty has met with the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. Everybody's on board with this change. My recommendation is that the board approve the amended memorandum of understanding with Eversource to change the construction start date associated with installing the electric cable under Shining Sea Bikeway from November 1st, 24 to October 15th, 24.
Is there any update on the double poles on Palmer Ave? Do you think they're going to be able to complete those in the next couple of weeks?
Do I think they're going to be able to complete the poles along Palmer Avenue in the next couple of weeks? Peter, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that too. So Philip Burt, Eversource Community Relations. So some of you may know Ronit Goldstein, who used to have the position. Ronit was promoted, so I'm now Ronit for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. So with respect to the polls, I think all but 3, we were told, are essentially have been addressed at this point. We're waiting on some stuff with Verizon, I think, with 3 remaining polls. I think that was what I was told this morning on that issue. So
Do you think they're going to get it for the summer? Because
I
it's
don't
really
know.
hard to get by with the 2.
I don't know about the timing. I do know that it was we were told that that was part of something that had to be addressed as part of this entire project. So I know that they're working. We have a regularly scheduled meeting with Verizon every 2 weeks to get updates on polls. So
I know. And technically, it's just that we agreed that Palmer Ave would be done before you started really the project in whole. But this part, it's kind of important for summer coming, and that moratorium on working on the roads and after Memorial Day, right? So
right.
If there's anything you can do, it would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Mr. McConerty?
Just quickly, through this whole entire project, it's been communicated through to Eversource from the town that no work on the bike path will be performed without those utility poles being removed and that sidewalk being opened as a detour. So if they're looking to do that in the fall, the poles will need to be removed by mid-October.
Thank you, Mr. McConerty.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the amended memorandum of understanding with Eversource to change the construction start date associated with installing electric cable under the Shining Sea Bikeway from November 1st, 2024 to October 15th, 2024.
Second it, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And thank you for the clarification, Mr. McConerty. Okay, we are going to move to request from Chris Megan on the Water LLC to appeal the decision of the town manager to place conditions on the special event permit for the Striper Fest.
Madam Chair, if I could open this up, a preface
please.
with some comments. On the Water LLC submitted an application for special events back on January 9th of this year. for the annual Striper Fest event to be held on September 28th of this year at Marina Park in the Bandshell area. On January 25th, as you all know, we have a special event working group. That group met on January 25th to discuss the Striper Fest permit app with representatives of On the Water. Following that discussion that was held before the working group, the group recommended to me as town manager that the application for Striper Fest be approved with the following conditions: no placement of a tent in the parking lot, and to work with the park superintendent, Mr. Pearson, with regard to a rain plan for the grass at Marina Park to protect the grass. Madam Chair and Board, there have been several complaints made to the Select Board over the years in regards to guests of our marina slip owners frequently being impacted by not having available parking due to the elimination of parking spots caused by the placement of that tent. On February 14th, my office approved and signed that special event permit with the stipulated conditions as recommended by the Special Events Working Group. We're going to hear from the applicant, but Madam Chair and Board, I want the Board to understand that my ask and recommendation is that the Select Board uphold the recommendation of the Special Event Working Group and the decision to place the below conditions on the approved permit for On the Water. Again, no placement of the tent in the parking lot, and to work with the park superintendent to address any rain plan and protect the grass of the park.
Thank you, Mr. Renshaw. Mr. Megan?
Yes, my name is Chris Megan. I'm the owner of On the Water Media Group here in Falmouth. Mr. Renshaw, just a clarification, was that from the working group? Because Peter was the one that indicated that that was from the selectmen, not actually from the working group, unless that is actually part from the working group. Just a clarification on that.
So, Madam Chair and Board, to clarify, the recommendation that's made to me as any other special event application comes from the working group to me. I don't know, the Select Board wasn't involved in that working group process. This is a board that's been formed over the years to review applications and then provide a recommendation to me.
I will say I have commented in years past.
You have, Mr. Brown.
Feedback that I've received from voters and.
No, understood, Mr. Brown. No, I was just looking for clarification because I was at that meeting with Peter and we went through the entire working group. There was no issues whatsoever. I worked with Mr. Frazier, the harbor master in charge of the harbor master in charge of the waterway there. And Peter, you were the only gentleman that said that the limitation was placed by the selectmen during the working group, but there was no other party at the working group that stated that. Neither Greg Frazier nor any of the other departments stated that. So I was just looking for clarification that, Peter, you stated that it was the selectmen that stated that that was a limitation, not the working group.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to clarify if you like.
Please.
So that's correct. I was the one who raised the concern, and it was a concern that had been expressed by the Select Board. So I was acting on feedback that I had received from the board following the last special event.
Right.
But it was not a vote of the Select Board. It was not a decision of the vote of the Select Board. It was, we were, again, reflecting input that we had received from the Select Board, but it was my recommendation based on what we had heard.
And Madam Chair, further clarifying point, the applicant mentioned the harbor master. I did reach out to our harbor master, and he was part of that working group, just to kind of talk to him about his history in terms of receiving complaints. He has received complaints from guests of slip owners as far as reduced parking. It's, according to the harbor master, perhaps not a tremendous impact, but he has received complaints over the years from slip owners that their guests don't have available parking.
Thank you.
Very good, sir. I spoke with Mr. Frazier last week, and different situation than I had from him, Mr. Mitchell. But the compromise that I would like to make would be this. I think Mr. Brown raised the point last year, and maybe Mr. Zelinski as well, that over the years there's been concerns about the guests, and I would consider the west parking lot area, not necessarily the parking area where the tent was, but the west parking lot area. And what I was going to say is if we could compromise this year with, we control the parking area kind of behind the bandshell, that big grass field where the farmer's market goes. And what we were going to propose, in speaking with Greg Frazier, was could we do a VIP pass that we get with the town? They send it out to all of the slip owners so that if any of the guests show up that day and they need a parking, we will allocate X amount of parking aside for them. Our busiest, and I don't know if it's here, Peter, or not, but we sent in 4 kind of overview maps from drone footage to Diane. And my point being is that along the waterway, there was 18 open parking spots. from the drone footage up top there that were, and I don't know if you have that or not.
It's in your packet.
We saw it.
Packet. We saw it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was 18, our busiest Striper Fest was 2022, when the world went outside and recreation just exploded. And so there was 18 parking spots in 2022, our busiest Striper Fest. I do understand this, I do understand the concern. I feel that even if we don't use that tenting area, we're not going to solve any of the issues. And the reason being is last year the weather was so bad on the 23rd of September that we moved that tent inside. We knew that our group was going to be so much smaller. We moved that inside. We did not use that parking spot after having met with the select board. And we said, let's see what it's going to look like. Every one of those spots were filled up by 9 o'clock in the morning, and they were used for the entire time that way. And so what we were going to propose as far as helping out those guests would be to see if we could allocate some of the parking we use for some of the sponsor groups and some of the VIP folks that come in behind the band shell, allocate 12 to 16 spots. I don't think we'll use 10 of them, but we'll put out I had one of the design guys just do a rough kind of like, I can get these to the harbor master's office, just saying that however many of these you need to pass out to the folks that are the guests there that know they're going to go boating. And we'll just show up at that parking area. We kind of control that spot. If they come into there, we will let them park in there for all of the guests in there. And I think it'll actually work better than if we don't have the tent in there. And the reason being is that when we pulled the tent out of there, all those spots were filled up from the morning on, and they were filled there until 6 o'clock. Generally, it's one of these things where between 9 and 6, the spots are filled. And it's the same issue we see with the farmer's market. If you go down to the farmer's market Thursday, any Thursday during the summer, you're going to see the same thing. And I had the same conversation with Greg, and he said, you have the same problem with the road race, you have the same problem with the farmer's market to try to find parking on those days. It's just kind of the way it is. The one thing I would also say is that we push this event to September 28th. It is the last Saturday in September. If you've lived in the community for any length of time, you know what the weather's like at the end of September, early October. For the last few years, the weather's fallen off substantially. So our compromise that we were asking the board for is we can kind of control that lot. We will accommodate working with the harbor master's office to issue however many permits he thinks he needs for the guests that day. We can accommodate those in that lot and make sure that they have a spot.
Comments from the board?
It just seems like an unnecessary, why not just put the tent on the grass?
The reason being is the Yamaha truck is there for the demo, so that can't go on the grass based on the weight of it. So that's right next to the harbor master spot, takes up probably 6 parking spots, and we have to kind of control that area because they're coming from our event over to that. They're doing a demo ride, and then they walk down. We take 12 spots on that town dock there, the transient dock. We take the 12 spots in there. We bring in 12 boats, and they take demo rides all day long that way.
It doesn't really answer the question. Why not just put the tent on the grass and have the truck
We
next
try to
it?
keep as much off of, if you're familiar with that field, it's the second option, the second consideration on that was to work with the Parks Department as far as the grass and the maintenance. So we try to keep as much of that. What we do is we set the tables up on the grass. In that area, we set up all the tables out there so that when the black dog's doing the food, they kind of go out in that back area. It's a little quieter. They can sit down in there, and you have the tables and chairs.
I'm just saying,
Oh, go ahead, Mr.
go ahead.
Zansky.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're confusing the issue. You're stating that you are willing to compromise with us. We're the one issuing the permit to you. We could simply restrict parts of that parking lot and exclude them from your use for this.
If I'm using the wrong word, Mr. Zelinski.
Well, no, and I don't mean to be combative about this, but you come in here every year telling us what you're going to do. Now, we have a recommendation from our town staff, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to start listening to the professionals. Now, I spent more time down there last year than I cared to. That grass area was a mess, all right? I think the asks for us to compromise with you, using your words, is a small ask. Mr. Brown is correct. If you moved the tent inside last year, you can either do without it or move it in this year. We have citizens that pay the bills year-round. that have slips there, and they should be considered as well. And that's where I'm with it for the rest of the board, just so you know.
And I'll just say, I do get a call, or more than one, every year. And they say, you should come down and look at this. And I go down and I look and I say, yeah, it's really, really overcrowded and there's no parking. And then I look and I see a tent and a truck and I say, there's the parking. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me to put a tent in the parking lot. You got that huge, both sides of that grassy area. There's got to be a way to figure it out. I just can't.
As a boat owner, and I feel like any statement I make, Mr. Zelinski's going to think I'm combative, but as a boat owner who launches a boat, I have a boat, a 22-foot Skeeter that I launch a boat. I can't launch it on road race weekend in town, Falmouth Harbor, from 8 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. So as a taxpayer in this community, as an owner in here, somebody that pays $25,000 in taxes in this community, has been living in this community for over 30 years, I can't launch a boat. You can launch a boat still, as far as I'm concerned. You can launch a boat. You can still Uber to this event, which a lot of people do. We use the parking facility over at the Lawrence School to accommodate as many as we can. We will move our entire staff over to that parking area so that they can use that, the area that the farmer's market uses, that grass in there, to accommodate it. It just, you know, Mr. Lieutenant used the word precedent many times earlier today as far as establishing a precedent. There's a precedent that's established with the Falmouth Road Race as far as the use from Woods Hole to the Heights. There's a precedent that's set by the farmer's market every Thursday.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that precedent was broken, when we reduced the size of that because we couldn't accommodate that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that part?
Which part was that? Where the farmer's market?
Where we had to turn away runners because our public safety couldn't facilitate that event? Do you remember that?
During COVID.
Doesn't matter. You said COVID
No, I'm just saying that-
drove numbers to you?
I'm
Listen,
just
I don't want to
stating that
fight with you about it.
Stating there's a precedent for utilizing town property that is, or services that way, from Woods Hole to the Heights.
We're not telling you can't have your event. We're telling you can't have your tent in the parking lot.
No, I get that. I get
All right,
that.
that's all we're telling you, and to fix the grass when you're done.
We do.
Well, I'm sorry.
And
Go
it is a
ahead.
little different. I mean, that's a big community event. Yours is a more of a commercial enterprise. And so I think it's unfair to,
I've donated $50,000 to Wings over the last 4 years. $50,000. That's all the money we make from that event has been donated to them for the last 4 years. And I wish I'd had the folks from Wings in here. And you're right, it is a smaller event, but to say it's a commercial event, it's, the farmer's market is a commercial event, isn't
okay,
it?
well, I'm not saying it's not. I guess I don't really understand what your business model is. I shouldn't speculate. I'm just saying, I can't support using the parking lot
No,
for the
Mr. Brown,
tent.
the only thing I would say, and it doesn't sound like it's going to go my way, but I'd like to see the select board at least vote on it, is that it just feels like that we're targeted based on a few individuals. And what I was going to suggest is, how many of these are we going to actually hand out? Let's put our money where our mouth is. How many are we going to hand out if because as you said, you've heard calls. Mr. Renshaw said that there's been calls to Mr. Frazier as far as or conversation. How many are we going to hand out? Let's see how many we're going to hand out this year. If we were allowed to use that one more year, we will work with with Greg. He can send out an email to all of the boat owners that way. We will put these available at the harbor master's office, and we will do whatever outreach program we can. And are we going to turn in 6? Or are we going to turn in 8?
Who knows if the word's even going to get out? You're going to send an email, it's,
And what is the pleasure of the board on this? Do we vote to support the recommendation of the Special Events Working Group? What would the board like to do?
I have to do that, yeah.
Okay, do you want to read the motion, Mr. Brown?
Shoots up to the chair.
So I'm going to make a motion to uphold the recommendation of the Special Events Working Group and the decision to place the below conditions on the approved special event permit for On the Water LLC Striper Fest event on September 28, 2024. No placement of tents in the parking lot area of Marina Park. Works with the Park Superintendent, Jeremiah Pearson, with regard to a rain plan for the grass at Marina Park. I'm sorry, but I just...
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Okay, it's a 4-1.
Thank you.
I'm going to say, if I may, Madam Chairman, if I may, I think that we have a business owner who came to us with an idea for a compromise, and we completely turned it down. I don't think that was the right decision, and that's why I voted no. I think we should have tried to accommodate.
Thank you, Mr. Muscali.
Thank you, Mr. Muscali.
Okay, we're going to move on. Request for a variance to sign code 18426, Illumination Cape Cod Church, 1205 Nathan Ellis Highway, East Falmouth.
Mark McSherry,
Welcome.
Executive Director, Cape Cod Church. So, I think you all have a packet in front of you that's up through
We do.
this. I've been here before, and we had previously applied for this exception, for this variance, and we were asked to go back and look at the actual lumens or light intensity of the sign. We have a sign that has been approved as specified in the package, and all we're asking for is interior illumination of that sign. And per the code, I guess, because we are agriculturally zoned, interior illumination needs to be approved by the select board, not by the building department. Okay?
Yes. Any questions from the board? Mr. Renshaw, do you have any comments on this application?
The only comments that I would make, Madam Chair, as the applicant indicated, he had presented in front of the board back in 2022, November. He was given some instructions to go back and gather some lumen comparative comparable data. The applicant did submit that as part of your packets. I wanted to call, there's some discussion back in November of 2022 with regards to the adjacent property, across the street property, the fairgrounds. And we did some research, did some digging, and I wanted the board to know that based upon our research, in April of 2013 is when that sign variance was granted with regards to the Barnstable County Fairgrounds. At that time, the town had a sign design review committee, which I understand is not in operation in place anymore. That review committee recommended to the select board at that time, back in 2013, to approve. They didn't look at the internal versus external lighting. It was basically just the dimensions of the sign itself. So the decision that the select board made in 2013 with regards to the fairgrounds was limited just to the sign dimensions. It was not even considered, quite honestly, with regards to the internal versus external. Clearly, the applicant is pointing across the street to the fact that it's an internally lit sign. I just want the board to know that the decision was never really based upon, and the sign review committee never based its recommendation upon internal versus external lighting. So my recommendation is, because I feel that the applicant did come back and provide the information and the data that was requested in 2022, my recommendation is that the board approve the request for variance for Cape Cod Church and the permitting of the internally illuminated sign. That's my recommendation. I think he met the request, the ask of Select Board in 2022. And there's some additional information in your packets with regards to the positioning of this particular sign of the church. It would be located about 30 feet off the road edge. The applicant states that it would not be visible from any surrounding residential locations, and I think that's a factor as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Well, sounds reasonable to me.
Madam Chair, I motion to approve the request for variance to sign code 184-26, Illumination Cape Cod Church, 1205 Nathan Ellis Highway, East Falmouth, and the permitting of the internally illuminated sign.
One second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, application filed by Town Hall Partners LLC, doing business as Timber, for a change of manager of its all alcoholic beverages restaurant license, 23 Town Hall Square, Falmouth.
Good evening,
Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I am an attorney here in town, and I'm before you tonight with Ryan Montella, who is the applicant as the new manager of Timber. We're before you simply seeking that change and the manager of record. Mr. Montella has been an employee of Timber since the very beginning, and he has been in retail services and direct sales for the last, I I think 13 years based on his resume. First in Somerset Creamery, but the last 3 years at Timber. He is TIP certified. We're not seeking to alter the operations in any way, just to have Mr. Montella appointed as manager.
No. I had him as a student, 100 years ago.
Between Mark Ferreira and Ryan Montella,
They're all mine.
I can't help that. I'm sorry, Mrs. Taylor.
Could you just call me ahead of time, please, Mr. Clower? Any questions from the board?
I have one.
Yes.
You're aware of the ongoing noise complaints, and you're aware of what this board discussed with your predecessors, and we're all on the same vibe there, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Montella's been an employee since the very start and involved in...
I had to get it on the record,
Yep,
Mr.
of course,
Clower.
I understand.
And you know that when
Please.
something goes wrong with the liquor license, we're going to come looking for you, right? Okay.
And we will find you.
Hey, you know where I live.
I do. Any other questions from the board?
No, I don't think there's been any noise complaints lately, has there?
Nope.
No, we haven't heard
So-
anything.
You're on the right track.
No news is good news.
That's right.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the application for a change of manager of an all-alcoholic beverages license, restaurant license filed by Town Hall Partners LLC doing business as Timber as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. We appreciate it.
Good luck.
Good to see you. Okay, vote to approve intermunicipal agreement between the Town of Falmouth and Mastech for urine diversion feasibility study. As Mr. Rafferty said, we've spent a lot of time talking about this. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A little bit of time talking about this. So I want to just hit the highlights of my overview. You have in your packet a copy of the draft IMA, or intermunicipal agreement, which would be between the county and Mastech. As you all recall, Select Board last year approved the use of $80,000 of the remaining ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funds, for this study. As you all also know, we've been exploring the feasibility and viability of urine diversion here within the town for several months. The purpose of this future pilot project, which we're going to be exploring again and trying to answer some questions, which I'll get to briefly. As you all recall, the total project, which April town meeting considered, was over $1 million. What we're really asking, what we're really hoping to achieve, is to obtain general use approval from Mass DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, of urine diversion as an approved technology that can be used to meet the requirements of the watershed permits the town will be seeking within the next 4 years. And that's key for the Select Board to understand, the watershed permit areas, those areas that the town is going to be responsible for meeting those state mandates. Given the totality of the capital needs, which we've discussed already earlier this evening, over the next 10 years, the town, my office is not recommending the town expend funds to deploy urine diversion beyond what is required as part of the watershed permitting process. The $80,000 allocation to Mastech will be used to address several questions that have been raised through the Finance Committee and some other sources with regards to the project, which, again, my office sees tremendous merit in urine diversion as a tool in our tool belt, so to speak, with regards to removing nitrogen. I want to go over real briefly, there's more, but some of the potential questions that we're hoping to have addressed and answered with regards to this study that we're engaging with Mastech. Are there at least 60 homeowners that are willing to install at least one urine diversion toilet and exclusively use that urine diversion toilet for the duration of a 3-year study? Mastech and the town are in agreement that in order to produce valid data for the efficacy of urine diversion, participants cannot have access to their remaining toilets in the home. We would have to somehow restrict access to those toilets. So that's something that's up for discussion and hopefully will be solved during the study. Will the plumbing board in Massachusetts approve one or more of these urine diversion devices for installation? How will urine be collected from each house? And lastly, with the list of kind of summary questions, what's the disposal plan for the urine collected? Will the disposal plan result in nitrogen flowing back into any impaired embayments? The enclosed scope of work was developed in close collaboration and partnership with Mastech and the town, and with input, importantly, from the Water Quality Management Committee representatives, Green Center representatives, and Mr. Kim Comart, who's here this evening. As you all know, Mr. Comart was recently appointed to serve on the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee. So the important point here is that it was a collaborative process. We solicited comment from multiple sources. The scope of the work, lastly, I'll say this, we're being very aggressive, trying to accomplish all of this within a very short window of time to be in a position by November town meeting to come with a recommendation. There's some dates in here that are critical. In order to meet that capital request to the Select Board and then ultimately the Finance Committee by August 30th, that's the deadline that we're approaching, and here we are past mid-May. So approval of this agreement is the important next step to get us going and engage with MassTech if we have any hopes of meeting that November town meeting deadline. And Madam Chair, I'll stop there, answer any questions, but again, my recommendation is that the Select Board vote to approve and authorize the town manager to execute the intermunicipal agreement and scope of work with Massachusetts Alternative Septic Systems, or MassTech, as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just a clarification. So now, are we approving the entire agreement, even though the bugs weren't really all worked out, and then the 80,000 will be allocated to work out those as we go along? And then you'll decide when it's ready?
The $80,000 that has already been allocated is going to be used to, and again, based upon the scope of work in this agreement, is going to be used to answer those questions. And I gave you 4. There's some additional questions as well, but
right.
Yeah. So to enable us to be in position to make a recommendation to you and the Finance Committee to move forward with the larger project that town meeting considered in April, but was not.
So we're gonna authorize a larger project as well as allocate the 80, or you're gonna come back?
We're gonna come back.
Oh, okay.
This is just the 80,000 that's going to help us address this list of questions.
To get the questions answered.
To make sure that the project is in fact viable.
Thank you.
And how we're gonna basically move forward, spending the larger amount, the north of $1 million for the larger project.
Got it, thank you.
Mr. Muscali, did you have a question?
Just one question. The intermunicipal agreement has a performance end date of November 29th, 2024. Is that inconsistent with that the work's going to be completed by August 30, 2024? Or are you just using some, having a little contingency?
Right. So the goal is to have the work done by August 30th to answer enough questions to make a decision to move forward or not with the study. But the timeline is so aggressive that we wanted to include an allowance in that timeline if they're finalizing the report. If, despite best efforts, they don't, we mutually agree we're not going to make that August 30th deadline, we didn't want to have to amend the agreement to enable them to continue to work for a couple more months. So that
just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we come down to it, I suppose we could put a placeholder on the warrant and then see if it's worked out by town meeting?
As you know, we prefer not to do that, but
Right.
that's
Maybe for this
potential.
one.
Yep.
Good.
All right. I would make a motion to authorize the town manager to execute the intermunicipal agreement and scope of work with the Massachusetts Alternative Septic System Test Center as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move on to designate a member of the Select Board, and I'm happy to do this one. I motion to designate Bob Muscali to seek input on the request to name the overlook on the Coonamessett River for Betsy Gladfelder.
You're happy to nominate Bob?
I'll second.
I'd be honored to take that task on.
Okay, I have,
Look forward to working with Mr. Neto.
All right.
oh, no. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
It's your birthday present, right?
And I would not do that.
I didn't even need my gloves today.
I would not do that without Mr. Muscali showing interest ahead of time. Take care. Okay, discuss and consider the adoption of the Town of Falmouth mission, vision, and core value statement. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. I'll keep this quick. So since September of last year, Peter and I, Assistant Town Manager, and I began working with the management team, which is comprised of the department heads and some division heads, to begin drafting what I think is really foundational to an organization, kind of the rudder, so to speak, mission, vision statements, and core value statements. As you all recall, we presented draft mission and vision statements and a set of core values to the board back on its March 2nd planning work study session. We received comments back from that. I talked a little bit about the importance in kind of what a mission statement, vision statement, and a well-crafted set of core values is, and I'll go through those quickly. The mission statement, again, is focused on really the purpose and reason for an organization to exist. What do we do today? Who do we serve? And what are we trying to accomplish? What impact as an organization do we want to achieve? The vision statement talks about where we're going moving forward, so it's more forward-focused. And what do we want to achieve in the future, and what kind of future services and amenities do we want to provide to our citizens? To be most effective as a navigational tool for the organization, it's important that the core values, mission, and vision statements have employee buy-in, and that's why Peter and I engaged with the staff to develop the list, kind of the foundation, the starting point, and that it'd be a very collaborative process. Once adopted, it's my goal to use these in our recruiting brochures information. Again, it's important for future employees of the organization to know what that direction and vision is, and also to place the information on the website so that folks in the community that are interested in learning more about the town understand. You have in your packets a copy of the draft Town of Falmouth mission, vision, and core value statements. I'm not going to read those. They're in the packet for the public to see as well. It's my understanding, Madam Chair, that Select Board Member Miscali has some potential revisions. At your seats, I placed Select Board Member Miscali's proposed revisions, and I'll turn it over to Bob.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing the work. It's certainly very important, and I apologize because I had drafted a longer document that I thought I had sent to Mr. Renshaw this morning, but apparently only the short document dealing with the mission statement was what he got. And I don't want to prolong the discussion this evening, but at the March 2nd meeting, I think I raised the 2 points that are, in my mind, the two bigger points for tonight. And one is that in the mission statement as drafted, the word efficient was used. And I think efficient is a bad term when we're talking about government and dealing with our residents. So I thought that utilizing the word effective in place of efficient would be a better term to use there. Efficient sounds too businesslike, and I think if we're government, we should not only be considered with efficiency, but effectiveness. And then as far as the mission statement itself, I just juxtaposed the employees to be right after the residents. So it reads residents, employees, businesses, and visitors. And there's a little other language. I do think that the other revisions that I did put forth and that you do have in front of you with respect to the vision statement, core values, I had mentioned that I think honesty and integrity are not necessarily interchangeable. Integrity is a broader concept. Honesty is part of integrity. So I know Mr. Renshaw wants to get this going. I commend him for doing it, but in all honesty, I think the revisions that I have to the full document would be better for us to adopt this evening or adopt at a further meeting. If we don't have to vote on it tonight, you have an opportunity to review what I think are better changes to, with all due respect to what was drafted.
There's no, Madam Chair, there's no
Yes.
time sensitivity. It's important. I found it hard to believe 11 months ago when I came on board that we had no mission statement, vision statement, or core values. That's, in terms of strategic planning, that's, again, the cornerstone. That's, you should start there. So there's no time urgency with this. Some mission, vision statement, and core value statement is better than none. So quite honestly, I'm comfortable with the changes that Select
Can I
Board
ask you
Member
one
Muscali.
question, if you may?
Go ahead.
Did you say that the staff helped draft this?
That was
We
my
started there
question.
in September of last year.
So they took ownership in this, and a lot of this is their words as well, right?
It is their words, yeah. And we went through a process of basically wordsmithing over the course of a few months, making sure that, it checked all the boxes and everybody was comfortable. But again, that was so that I had a product to present to the select board back on March 2nd. And we did that, and we went through that.
What was your feedback from when they were asked to do this? Were they happy to do it? Did they feel proud to do it? I mean,
Yeah, so they felt proud, they understand, Peter and I did a good job explaining the importance of having, again, that foundational pieces in place, the mission, vision, and core values. So they felt proud, and they felt like a sense of accomplishment. But again, I think that the staff understood that this was a starting point, and the final document needed to be adopted. I think it's important that the governing body adopts this. It's a policy statement in effect. It talks about the future of the town. So I think the staff, to be fair, yes, they were proud. They put a lot of effort into it. Peter and I guided the process, but they always understood that it was a starting point, and that there was, the potential for edits and changes.
And I'm not questioning any of that went on. I'm just questioning the way it's worded. It is our policy, and it is going to be, our statement. And all I'm asking, I apologize that I didn't get the whole document to you this morning. That was my mistake. But I would prefer to have the board take a look at what I suggested as possible revisions, which, in all due respect, I think better says what it is we mean, and what I think the employees would like to see.
I thought we voted this in March.
We didn't. I mean, we discussed it, and as I said, I made those 2 points at the March 2nd meeting that I've just brought up before.
It was a work session, study session, so it was asked for no votes.
I see, right, okay.
I could have sworn we did, because I remember thinking I wanted more time to look at it, but Bob and I voted no.
That's what I thought.
Because we wanted more time.
We did, because
And the rest of us accepted it.
Yeah.
because I felt like it was a staff initiative. I didn't really feel like it was for me to.
With all due respect, I think the ultimate conclusion of that was that we would have another opportunity to comment on it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. When it comes to stuff like that, I mean, I defer to staff for their own mission statement of.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to take another shot at it, I guess, you got another shot?
I'm not going to vote against it, but I think that it's not the best product, honestly. And that's all I'm saying.
And that's your opinion.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Scott-Price.
Because if this is pushed along, I will not be here for the next vote. I will say, just having looked at this, I do like the verbiage of effective instead of efficient. That's just my 2 cents.
I think effectiveness and efficiency are important. But I would vote for what the staff came up with Mr. Renshaw and Mr. Johnson-Staub. But
I mean,
we wanna push it
selectmen come
down.
and go.
We can certainly make that
What are you
change and
saying?
replace efficient with effective, if that's the edit that the board, that no feelings will be injured in terms of the staff, certainly not mine.
It sounds
This
like
is
Bob's
going to be
got
the select
more,
board's
though.
document.
You have larger.
I'll vote for it, as I said. I think it could be a better product, and I don't see the urgency of doing it this evening, and would ask you to just take a look at what I suggested as being modifications to it, that's all. I'm not offended if we don't do it. I think it's important that we get a mission statement, values out there. That's the important thing, but I think I don't think the wording was, really what I would like to see out there, but that's just my personal opinion. You decide how you want to vote.
it's the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Renshaw seems willing to let Mr. Muscali take another shot at editing, I guess. I mean, I don't want to.
I don't know if I said that.
Okay.
What I said is I was
didn't hear it.
comfortable with the edit if a couple of the board members feel like efficient is not the proper term and it could be improved by replacing that with effective, I'd be supportive of that.
Fine.
So I don't
Rather
see.
than retool the entire thing and come back a month
Yeah.
later.
Oh, I see. These are both,
As I said,
Okay.
I didn't want to go through the whole other suggested revisions. I apologize that we didn't get it sooner, but at the very least, I think the word effective is better than efficient.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
And thank you. And to be honest, because this is your document, it can be revised from time to time. Again, it's going to be built into the 5-year strategic plan. I mean, that's, again, setting the tone. So it can be changed. I mean, it's just, I thought it was important to get something on the on paper so that the community knows that we have a direction. And that's why we're here.
I agree.
7 months later.
Is there a motion on the table, Madam Chair?
There is not a motion yet. Would you like to make one?
It's gone so many different ways. Doug, who's on, what's the amendment to the motion?
So what's in our packet says Falmouth's mission is to provide impeccable and efficient customer service. The one adjustment that we have in the typed thing says pretty much the same, except it says impeccable and effective service. That was Mr. Muscali's edit.
Is that where we're at?
Today, yeah.
It is.
Is that the motion, Madam Chair? Is that the?
I think so.
Is that your motion? Okay.
And then I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll move on to Town Manager's supplemental report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing tonight.
Okay, Select Board reports. Mr. Muscali.
Nothing.
Mr. Brown.
Let's get out of here.
Ms. Scott Price.
Oh, no, I'm going to take a minute because it's my last.
Go for it.
No, I just want to spend some more time saying that, how much I enjoyed being on the board and reflecting just on the conversations we've had tonight and thinking about how often conversations that we've had here and discussions that we've had, I've taken a lot of what I've learned about working with others and thinking about different perspectives and how I use that in life. So the Striper Fest, I think Bob made a good point after we voted, that, maybe there was another option that we didn't pursue. And it doesn't necessarily matter now, but those are the kinds of things that I'll continue to think about as I go on in life. And I look forward to seeing you all in different capacities around town. Maybe I'll be on another committee or something in the future, but yeah, it's been great working with you.
Thank you.
It has been great.
Yeah.
We're going to miss you.
We are going to miss you.
I'm not going to miss staying up late.
Well, you can blame Bob for that.
It's usually me.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
We have signatures.